building. Finally, he is back.
I'm not here to back down.
Oh, it is over.
I'm coming out to show who I am today, not who I was.
This is going to be a dogfight.
I'm telling you, I'm going to stay champion for a long time. Volkanovski, ready or not, I'm coming.
Ortega is a problem for everyone.
Shevchenko.
A true champion.
Murphy, second longest active winning streak in the division.
Fight fans, get ready.
I cannot wait.
I cannot wait either. Sweet baby Jesus and the Awesome back to Fight Week here on BT Sport. This is your official UFC 266 weigh-in show with me, Adam Catterall, the one and only Mr. Nick Peet, and the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Michael Bisping. Gentlemen, pleasure as always to be in your company. What a show we have got lined up. 2 title fights to get stuck into on the weigh-ins and the return of a legend taking on another legend 17 years since they first had a dance in the UFC at UFC 47. We'll preview all this throughout the course of the show. You're more than welcome to come and join us throughout the course of the next few hours as we talk about these epic fights, which kick off at 3 a.m., of course, on BT Sport, that main card with Jessica Andrade taking on Cynthia Calvillo. But all eyes are going to be on that People's Men event right in the middle of the card between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler and the 2 title fight too. And that's where we'll start, Mike. We'll get straight into the top of the bill, the featherweight championship of the world, or it's Volkanovski versus Ortega. Give us a little bit of a preview of where you think the champ is currently at and what skills he brings to the octagon on Saturday night.
Where the champ is currently at is in a very, very bad mood by the looks of it, because yesterday at the press conference, he was holding nothing back. Things are getting very personal. It seems like he just found out that Brian Ortega popped for steroid once in his career. Seems like he just found that out, and he's all bent out of shape over it. And listen, skill-wise, we know what he brings to the table. He's a phenomenal boxer. He's got great takedown defense and great offensive wrestling. Jiu-jitsu, he's not really a jiu-jitsu specialist, but he's a hell of an athlete. He's very strong, and as I say, very angry coming into this one, which may help him or may hinder him. We're yet to be seen. But of course, on the flip side, we've got Brian Ortega, known for his jiu-jitsu. Striking is much improved. Last time we saw him against Chan Sung Jung, he looked like a new fighter. But he's very dangerous in the clinch. He's got excellent knees, excellent elbows. And he's also kind of annoyed coming into this one. So, listen, I love it. You know, there's a lot of bad blood, nasty intentions, and it's going to deliver a fantastic fight.
Sounds like a Bisping type of night. Listen, before we get to the face-off yesterday, which you just mentioned there a moment or two ago, Mike, Nick, let's just get stuck into Brian Ortega. As a challenger coming through here, last time out against Zombie, he was absolutely fantastic. But what led to the Zombie fantastic victory was a defeat to Max Holloway. And you've got to admire the lad for what he did off the back of that, because he ditched his coaches, he ditched his management team, he ditched his gym, he completely reinvigorated everything. And we kind of saw a different version of Brian Ortega last time out, didn't we?
We absolutely did, you know, and I think that's what's brought the expectation level up so much heading into this fight. You know, 2 years away from the octagon, so many questions. You know, he took a real beating by Max Holloway as well, you know, and to take the first loss of your career in a title fight of that magnitude and it be so one-sided, it can be tough to take. It's hard to come back from that kind of a loss. And he disappeared for 2 years, and there was a lot of talk of, will we ever see Brian Ortega again? But credit to him, he's gone away and he's worked on the holes in his game, and that was evidence against Korean Zombie. It looks like he's filled in some serious gaps with his stand-up game. I know Zombie is a completely different type of opponent than what Volkanovski is going to be tomorrow night. Volkanovski is very much going to be in his face. You can see there the final head-to-head yesterday. You know, as Mike said, Volkanovski really charged up, really asking, you don't belong here. I think he kind of needs that, Volkanovski, though. He needs that bit of needle to fight the way he does, fight on the front foot the way he does. But Ortega is absolutely a much better challenger than what he was the last time he challenged for the belt against Max Holloway. And I think he's going to give a much better showing, should I say, against the champion this time around.
Mike, the whole narrative of this fight's been a little bit crazy because obviously it was originally booked, it fell off, and then they stayed in Las Vegas for a long period of time to film Tough and became the coaches, obviously, on that TV show. So they were under each other's skin for a long period of time. And yesterday, as we saw at the end of the weigh-in there that you referred to, Volkanovski has just, it seems, found out that Brian Ortega popped out after his first fight. It was his first fight in the UFC. He got popped for an anabolic steroid. I think the bigger story is that he only got a $2.5 grand fine and a 9-month ban. that's another show. We'll get stuck into that another
That's
time.
a whole another podcast.
But that has obviously riled the champion and adds a little bit of extra spice on top of what was already bubbling anyway.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been there myself. I've always had a strong stance against performance-enhancing drugs. And when I find out that I'm going up against somebody that has partaken in that or been found guilty of using those kind of things, for me, that shows me mental weakness. And I'm going to remind my opponent of that. We're going to step into a cage tomorrow night. And if you've cheated in the past, I'm going to remind you of that and try and bring up every single reason or excuse why you might have done that. I mean, number one, you got no integrity. Secondly, are you mentally weak? That's what I see every time when somebody feels the need to take performance-enhancing drugs. Well, they think they need to enhance their performance because their regular performance isn't good enough. That is a mental weakness. And I think that's what Volkanovski's doing. He's clinging on to that. He's using it to fuel himself, and he's using it to try and make Brian Ortega doubt himself. And why is he doing that? It's because he sees that he has a worthy challenger in front of him. Make no mistake, steroids or not, right? Ortega's good. And as Nick just said, and we all said, last time out, he looked like a reinvented version of himself. He's very dangerous. He has got knockout power. He's got improved stand-up. And his jiu-jitsu game is second to none. So, you know, it's, I think Volkanovski's just trying to, he's trying to plant those seeds of doubt. That's what he's trying to do.
One person that most certainly isn't doubting her abilities is the flyweight champion. I think this is her sixth now title defense. In the co-main event, we've got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Lauren Murphy. Nick, she's running out of challenges at the moment, is Valentina, and this is the third ranked contender that is stepping up. Lauren Murphy, a worthy contender, no doubt, but at 125, Valentina's just a different level.
She is, she's never lost in a career in this weight class. She is, truly the best flyweight women's MMA has ever seen. And she just looks a couple of years ahead of everybody else, and that makes it so much tougher for every girl out there because you've got a champion here, and it's almost like a poison chalice when you get into the number one contender spot. You've got to take on somebody so special. But that said, what it does is it raises the benchmark for every other female flyweight on the planet to go, that's where I've got to get to. That's how hard I've got to work. That's what I've got to aspire to be. And they should all, and Lauren Murphy included, they should all be studying Valentina, how she sleeps, how she eats, where she trains, her whole background, every single fight, of course. And Lauren Murphy, she's at the stage of her career now. She probably isn't going to get another shot at UFC gold. This is the only chance she's got. And she's got to leave it all inside the octagon. And you know what, man? Listen. This is MMA, man. There's so many ways to win and lose. She's in there on merit. She's in there. She's absolutely prepared to go. And she's got absolutely nothing to lose. All the pressure is on Valentina Shevchenko to keep alive this trilogy fight with Amanda Nunes, to prove to everybody she's the best thing since sliced bread. Lauren Murphy is expected to lose. And when you've got no pressure on your shoulders like that, you can come in from anywhere and you can do the damage. And who knows, a big shot could be on our hands tomorrow night.
The journey from Lauren Murphy to this point, Mike, has been absolutely extraordinary. She only entered an MMA gym to kind of inspire her son to become more active. And now look at her fighting for the title. Nick's not wrong in what he says there, is he? She is expected to lose for a lot of the fan base. She's got everything to gain. And with that, I think the pressure is off her totally. And all she's got to go and do is do her best.
Yeah, listen, I'm not trying to downplay when I won the title, but there is certain parallels you can draw from this, right? Rocco was coming in super confident. I took the fight on short notice, and I'd already been beaten by him, so no one was giving me a chance. And the main thing that I see that kind of concerns me a little bit if I'm the manager of Valentina Shevchenko is she too confident? She was saying yesterday the only way Lauren Murphy can beat her is if she is superhuman. I can't do a Shevchenko. And she's also talking about beating Jake and Logan Paul in 0 seconds, right? Relax, woman.
Yeah,
Come on,
true.
take.
That bit's true.
Well, I don't know about that, but being superhuman. Lauren needs to be superhuman. No, I don't know about this. Listen, Shevchenko is great, and she's got every right to be so confident. She's absolutely phenomenal and one of my favorite fighters to watch. But still, anytime you hear somebody saying they need to be superhuman to beat me, has she stepped off the gas ever so slightly in training? Has she seen this fight as already a foregone conclusion? Is she walking into this too confident? Remember, when I fought Rockhold, he was referring to himself as a samurai and all these type of things. And, I'm not taking away from my own win, but did he come in a little too confident? Probably did. Is Shevchenko coming into this a little too confident? Because make no mistake, on the flip side, Lauren Murphy has done everything. She has left no stone unturned. She's put in the extra miles. She's worked with the nutritionist, probably had a sports psychologist. The diet's been spot on. The sparring's been spot on. She's spent more on this training camp than she ever has done in the past, because this is her shot at winning the lottery, the sports lottery, if you will. On the other side, Shevchenko, this is just another day at the office. I think it's her 7th title defense. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's her 7th. She's the only flyweight champ that we've ever had. And listen, she's only a human. She ain't superhuman either, right? And human tendencies, human habits crawl in and creep in. And what do I mean by that? Well, a little bit of arrogance. When you start knocking everybody out and you become the man and you're on the front, you're on the posters and you're on the, you know, when you are the man or the woman, should I say, in this point, you know, right, it's easy to get a little overconfident. And if she is, Lauren Murphy on a 5-fight win streak, as motivated as what she is, and as if you saw at the press conference yesterday, she said, I'm not scared of this woman. I'm not scared one little bit. She's going to go out in there and fight tooth and nail. She's going to be dangerous. And I do expect Shevchenko to win. But if she is taking it a little too lightly, we could have an upset on our hands.
Look at that, Nick. That's a new record. It only took him 9 minutes to give it to Luke Rockhold on one of our shows. That beat his previous record of 13 minutes.
Oh. Well done, Mike. Well done.
Gotta love that. Anyway, right.
I thought you were going to say, look at that. That's a new record. It only took him 9 minutes to insert himself into the conversation.
Listen, main and co-main events have obviously got titles on the line, and we're extremely excited about watching those fights play out on BT Sport. But let's be straight, Nick. This is the fight, isn't it? The people's main event, a 5-rounder, 17 years in the making, this rematch, and obviously 6 years, best part of anyway, before we've seen Nick Diaz back in the octagon. Talk us through your excitement, man, because I can see that Cheshire cat grin from a mile off.
Yeah, you know what? When this fight was first made, I had no idea I would be this excited when it actually came to fruition. You know, I thought, yeah, great, man, a Legends match, why not? Listen, any excuse to get Nick Diaz back inside the octagon, but I'll believe it when I see it. Well, we're about to see him step on the scales, a little bit fleshier than what we had originally hoped for, but he's going to get on the scales. So is Robbie Lawler. They're going to do a head-to-head, and tomorrow night they're going to throw down. And I am so excited. It is ridiculous. Yes, they're both in the twilight of their careers. Yes, it's a Legends match. They won't be as fast as they were before, as accurate, maybe as strong-chinned as they were before. But one thing we can guarantee is a repeat of the first fight, albeit an old man version. They're going to stand in that octagon and they're going to throw heavy leather at one another's chin until one of them falls over. That is guaranteed. I cannot wait. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Mike, it is the people's main event. We're all extremely excited about it. And to be fair, when the fight was made, as Nick said, we kind of expected some antics at some point, and we got some this week from Nick, changing the weight class from welterweight to middleweight. I do feel for Robbie, what's your thoughts on this as a former fighter? I mean, there's a certain word which I can't say on this show, followed by the word housery, that maybe should be used to describe what has gone on here. What would your reaction be if someone changed the weight class 3 days out from a fight?
Well, probably different to Robbie Lawler's, but I've got to say, I really respected Robbie. You know, he said, and when I saw him talk about this, you could see he's came prepared. He's came to win this fight and he doesn't care. And on the flip side of it, for Robbie Lawler, he doesn't have to go through the grueling weight cut either. Listen, Robbie Lawler looks to be in fantastic shape, but he's still probably going to have a 10-pound weight cut. Now, Nick Diaz, on the flip side, if you look at him in the pictures, you know, when he's doing that shadow boxing to the camera, he looks a little softer than what he has in the past. You know, remember there was a picture on social media months ago and he was ripped. Well, he doesn't look like that now. He looks a little softer and he looks like he might have taken it easy in training camp and potentially not make weight. So Nick Diaz, as you say, there's always some kind of fun and games fight week with the Diaz brothers. And he's asked Dana White if he can do it at 185. There's no title on the line. And if Robbie Lawler agrees to it, then why not? There is a rumor floating around that he got knocked out in training and maybe that's why he wants to fight at 185. I don't know if that's true or not. As I say, rumor, capital R, somebody well-known in the MMA community said that, but I don't know if it's true. That would explain why he wants it at 185. Listen, at the end of the day, he looks a little softer. That's probably the main reason that he didn't diet quite as well. But I thought Robbie Lawler just going with it and saying, yeah, whatever weight he wants to do it at, let's do it.
Thank you all for being here.
What a fantastic attitude.
266 Volkanovski versus Ortega, and we will begin the official.
You can hear that they're kicking up now in Las Vegas. That's the dulcet tones of John Anik, who's going to be on comms for us tomorrow.
UFC featherweight champion Alexander the Great Volkanovski.
And this is great to see. The champion at 145, first on the scales, no messing about. We're about to kick it off. If you want to interact with us at any point here on BT Sport, you're more than welcome to do so. Just use all our social media channels and we will get to you as well as a bit of a lull in the action. Let's get to it. Let's see if Alex has made weight. I imagine so.
144 and a half, the official weight for the champion Alexander Volkanovski.
Sporting what is commonly known as the Adam Catterall haircut now. I like it. It's a nice look, that, Mr. Volkanovski.
Yeah, anytime someone comes out and they're dancing about like that before they get on the scale and they've got a big smile, you know they've made weight. That's the only reason he's there. And Volkanovski, forever the professional. He really is. That's why he's so successful.
In the UFC today, the future Hall of Famer, undisputed UFC flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko.
Champions aren't messing about here, Mike. Setting the example straight out the gate. The people carrying the gold, they're the first on the scales.
Hey, and listen, look at that. That tells you everything, doesn't it? That's how you're supposed to do it. Weigh in as early as you can, then start the rehydration and taking on board the nutrients. That's how you do it. And that's why these people are champions. The contenders, I don't know if they're going to, but if they come straggling in with only 1 or 2 minutes left before the 2-hour deadline, it's not a good look. Here's how you do it. Shevchenko steps on, oozing confidence. She'll hit 125 on the mark. 125 on the mark.
124, the official weight for Valentina.
Oh, 124, pound lighter.
Well, listen, Alex has come in half under. She's come in a pound under. That's got to get them blooming scales checked. You can't be doing the count like that. If he said that it's 125, it's 125.
All right, next fighter to the scale competing in a prelim you can see live on ESPN News in the UFC's lightweight division, Nasrat Haqparast.
Oh, this could be interesting.
Now, this is a big story. This is an absolutely huge story. For those that haven't been following this throughout the course of the week, the fight between Nasrat Haqparast and Dan Hooker, we worried throughout the course of the week whether it was going to be on or not. This guy's only just arrived in Las Vegas over the last 24 hours.
$154 and a half, the official weight for Nasrat Haqparast.
Mid-championship weight. That's ridiculous. He only needs to do 156. The story has been unbelievable. Obviously, last week he posted on his social media that his mother had sadly passed away, and then the visa situation this week. I mean, Mike, the lengths that those two men have gone to try and get this fight on have been absolutely outstanding.
All right, next athlete to the scale in the UFC's featherweight division, competing live on UFC Fight Pass tomorrow, Omar Morales.
It really is incredible, Adam. It really is. And to see the attitude of Dan Hooker and Nasrat, what they went through, and they still made weight, let that be a lesson to anybody out there on the roster that feels sorry for themselves, that doesn't make weight, that has every excuse under the sun. Because as a professional,
145.5, the official weight for Omar Morales.
Just like this guy, you're supposed to make weight. When you sign on the dotted line, you have a responsibility to the organization, to the fans, but more importantly, to yourself as a fighter, that you show up and make weight. And Dan Hooker and Nasrat, they had every excuse under the sun. They would have been really understood if they didn't make weight. But look at them, professionals.
Here he is.
And here he is, the man himself.
Wow.
Here's the other fella. Incredible. This is unbelievable. Within the first 4 minutes of the weigh-in, these two men have only arrived in Vegas in the last, well, Dan said 7:30 last night in Vegas. That is outstanding.
155 and a half, the official weight for Dan Hooker.
Unbelievable.
Nick, he's been in Las Vegas for
14
hours, mate.
14 hours he's been there.
All right, next fighter to the scale, the number 2 ranked featherweight contender competing for the
and you're on a
undisputed
flight
title
and you're
tomorrow
retaining
night.
water and all the other
T-City
nonsense
Ortega.
that goes with it. Unreal.
Here we are, top of the bill. The challenger to the featherweight crown, Brian Ortega.
144,
Everybody's
the
coming in
official
under.
weight for Brian Ortega. Your UFC featherweight title fight is official.
Check them scales.
That's it. Yeah, well, send them to my house, mate. They're very generous, those scales. I'll have a piece of that at my house.
Well, the main event is official.
Yeah.
All right, next fighter to the scale.
Sorry, Adam.
Prelim live on ESPN News.
Sorry, mate.
6th ranked
There's
in
a
the
slight
bantamweight
delay.
division, Magic Marlon Moraes.
Now, this is
Pressure on,
interesting,
but
right? I wanted to bring this guy up with you guys because the fall of Marlon Moraes, since obviously fighting for the vacant title in 2019, has been unbelievable. 3 knockouts and maybe a contentious victory against Jose Aldo. He could be on a 4-fight speed, really, this guy.
For Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, and it just shows the difference between, the elite or the champion and the top 5, or just the people that you have to go through to get a title fight.
Right, next up, in the UFC
it's really hard.
Division,
you know what I'm saying? The champion and the top 5, they're all very, very even. And Marlon Moraes is no joke in there. But as we see, he's lost 3 out of his last 4. And as you mentioned, even that Jose one, I think a lot of people, including Dana White, said he should have lost that fight. But prior to that, the man looked like he was the next champion in waiting, knocking everybody out. Great jiu-jitsu, excellent kicking game. But hold on, let's listen for Roxanne.
125.5, the official weight for Roxanne Modafferi.
There's a pro.
Still going.
Mate, 18 years. 18 years in this game. That's Hall of Fame right there. I don't care what a record says. Fought on every promotion on the planet, pretty much on every continent.
Right, next fighter to the scale,
He's
set to make his UFC debut here tomorrow night.
And she has had, I think, with that fight, more mixed martial arts fights than any other female ever.
Wow. Incredible.
Wow, look, hang on a minute. Look at you dishing out the stats here, Mr. Bisping. I'm loving that, son. That's good.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I know a little thing about mixed martial arts, okay?
Analyst, yeah. I heard that you were like nominated for an analyst award or something.
I've got the stats, baby. I got the stats.
Brilliant.
Nick Maximoff coming in there. He's on the early prelims.
Right, next fighter to the scale. He is the other half of that featured prelim live on ESPN News, number 11 in the UFC's bantamweight division, Merab Dvalishvili.
Now,
this is a good one.
Talk to me about this fella. Yeah, well, I was going to say, obviously, Marlon Moraes is on that skid, and now they've paired him up against the wrestler. I mean, he's got a questionable gas tank as Moraes. That's just, has he annoyed somebody at the UFC or something?
Yeah, exactly. This guy can fight, absolutely. He's got an incredible chin. Bit of a grinder, doesn't get too many finishes, but I think he's on a 6-fight winning run at the moment. Lost his first 2 in the UFC, but on a 6-fight winning run. Looks absolutely outstanding. And as you say, it feels like Moraes is being fed to the little Russian monster here, because Dvalishvili, the Georgian, is on an incredible run.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's not many people volunteering to fight him, because just his style, as you said, the pace is non-stop. The wrestling credentials are off the chain, right? And he just doesn't stop. He's a little buzzsaw. He's like the Energizer bunny from start to finish. And he's got power in his hands. Comes from a great team. Sarah Longo training up there with Matt Serra, Ray Longo, and all the great training partners that they have as well. Aljamain Sterling, the champ, exactly. Yeah. You know, this guy's a real problem. And I see him as a future contender.
Flyweight division, number 5 in the world, Cynthia Calvillo.
So for Marlon Moraes, yeah, tough night at the office, that one.
Mike, 2 fights that are kicking off, obviously the main card, this being the first. You would think out of the 4 people contesting in the flyweight and the heavyweight
126,
fights there,
the official weight.
This girl's
Cynthia
got probably the most to
Calvillo.
gain. Because in the heavyweight division, it's a bit of a flux at the moment. Jessica Andrade, who's already been in with Shevchenko. If she puts on a good performance against Andrade, she could be the next in line, this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is she's got to put on a good performance against Andrade. So don't.
Right,
that's not a foregone conclusion. I think Andrade is going to come into this
Santos
looking to prove a point. But sure, I completely agree. If she can go through Andrade, a former champion, you know, one of the most recognizable and exciting fighters in the division, yes, she's on a fast track to fight Shevchenko. But as I say, it ain't going to be easy.
This is Taylor Santos on the scales, Nick. Bad memories, obviously. This is a young lady that went up against our very own Molly McCann and got the result.
Yeah, she's only actually lost 1 in 18 fights, which is incredible when you look at that. I think it was a split decision loss as well. Long, rangy striker, venomous kicks. She fights out of the Astra fight team in Brazil, which is Marcelo Brigadeiro's fight team, which people may be aware. That's where when Darren Till moved to Brazil for a couple of years and like basically got his UFC debut. It was that Astra fight team under Brigadeiro, so a good camp as well.
Very good. Semmelsberger is on the scales right now, taking on Martin Sano.
170.5, the official weight for
Semi the
Jedi, Matthew Semmelsberger.
Love it.
I knew that you would scream his nickname on this show. No. You love shouting that nickname, don't you?
Mate,
Right,
I just remember this guy. Remember he
UFC's
knocked out that
lightweight division,
Jason
the
Witt in like
undefeated
16
Udo
seconds.
Schmidt.
I think it was last year or earlier this year. March, was it? Start of the year? One of the knockout of the year contenders. Absolutely brilliant. So anyone with heavy hands gets my time of day.
Look at Uros Medic here coming in with the... Has he got the shades on? Yes, he has. That's the type of look I'm looking for, son.
156 for Udo Schmidt.
Got it.
Or you could say something else that rhymes with slick, but whatever. I was known to sport sunglasses myself. Hey,
yes, I was going to say.
Mate, the guy can fight. Yeah, he fights a bit under Rafael Cordero, made his debut at the start of the year. First fight, flying knee, ground and pound finish, 50 grand bonus. Thank you very much.
Can I just retort back at Adam, though? I used to wear the sunglasses because I had an eye condition that I was hiding from the commission. Do you know what I mean? That's why I used to wear the sunglasses indoor. Because all my mates back home in Clitheroe, they're like, what's going on with the sunglasses, Mick? What are you doing? You know, and I'm like, shut up, you idiots. I've got a bad eye and I'm in by the skin of my teeth. I'm not trying to highlight it to the commission.
I just thought it because you were looking cool, man. I think you did that in the Henderson rematch, didn't you? I'm sure you did it at the Henderson rematch in Manchester. I'm sure you did it then. Or you did it at the press conference anyway. Yeah.
I did it at every fight after I detached my retina, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Listen, I can tell that you've been working on your stand-up show, mate. Since we last spoke, obviously you've been talking about obviously getting it written. No, you're at it today, aren't you? You're cracking the gags out today.
Well, last week when we spoke, I was sick as a dog. I was ill all week last week. I was trapped in Vegas doing the Contender and then Saturday commentating. And it was a miserable few days. So when we did that preview show, my energy levels weren't good. So I'm just back to 100%. That's all it is, Adam.
Listen, we've had loads of messages actually at BT Sport about people looking forward to welcoming the Count back to UK soil. They've all got the tickets. No, I don't want to put pressure on you, Mike. You know what I mean? I know that obviously you're used to walking out in front of thousands, millions watching across the world and bearing your soul in front of us all in front of a cage, mate. But, you know, you've got to keep people's attention now for a good hour and a half whilst you're on stage cracking gags like, you know what I mean? Have you written them all? Are they all ready to go?
Well, mate, it can't be rehearsed, can it? You know what I mean? You got to speak from the heart. It's like when I did the Hall of Fame speech. I sat down with the UFC. They had a writer. They spent bloody hours writing this speech for me. And I walked out and it was there in front of me on the teleprompter. And I thought, no one wants to hear me reading off a script. So I said, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to the UFC and the writer that worked very hard and diligently on this speech. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to speak from the heart because it's more fun. And of course, I have structure to the show. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm going to talk about. But I'm not going to go out there like a parrot and just memorize it. No, we're going to freestyle, baby. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be interactive. But yeah, definitely got a few gags in there as well. Don't you worry.
Love it.
Looking forward to it. We'll sit at the back, mate, because if he spots us, you know that he's going to give us abuse next, so we'll stay out the way. Yeah, last thing we want is that. Anyway, back to this. Live on BT Sport. Don't forget those prelims do get underway from 1 a.m. and the main card from 3 a.m. We just got a little bit of a lull in the action. If you have just joined us slightly late, the main event is done and dusted. Both the champion and the contender weighed in on weight. In fact, underweight, both of them. We've had Valentina Shevchenko come through as well. We're waiting for Lauren Murphy, and we're also waiting for both guys in the people's main event between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler 2. There's plenty of other fighters still to weigh in as well, and we will get to them as and when we are getting along. We just had a poll on the screen there, which just went off. Quite a lot of people obviously favouring Volkanovski coming into this fight. I've got to be honest, I've been lucky enough to speak to both of these guys this week. Volkanovski is obviously a big ball of energy anyway. And he always, when you leave a conversation with him, you feel inspired, you feel confident that he knows exactly what he's going to go and do and what he's going to bring to the fight. Brian Ortega is a lot more of a relaxed character, and I think you've got to delve into him a little bit more to get where he's currently at and how he's feeling. But he didn't seem, and this is maybe I'm reading too much into this, Mike, he didn't seem to take too well to that face-off yesterday when Volkanovski did accuse him of him failing that test after his first UFC fight. He seemed to react and go within himself just a touch. And it kind of stems back to what you were saying right at the start of the show about reminding somebody about, you know, being a bit insecure and wanting to and needing those performance-enhancing drugs in order to bring a different level out in his performance. Obviously, we pray that that's not the case this time around. But a little bit of psychological warfare. And I think that Volkanovski's got the one-upmanship on that yesterday.
Yeah, I believe so, because I totally agree. When you looked at Brian Ortega, he did look a little shocked. He looked a little hurt. You know, at one point it looked like he might start bloody crying. And and it was well played by Volkanovski, to be honest, right? Because if you're Brian Ortega, if he wins, of course, he's going to have other bigger moments. But if he loses, this could be the precipice, the absolute tip of Mount Everest for his MMA career. And what an achievement just to get there anyway. Right? He's fighting on a massive pay-per-view. They're at a press conference. And there's his opponent, the champion of the world, the man that has everyone's respect, reminding everybody about getting busted for steroids a long, long time ago. If you're Brian Ortega, you're thinking, oh, that's all in the past. No one's going to bring that up. And here we are at the press conference for his world title fight. He's reminding the world, so that stings. It does. He probably thought that was a thing of the past. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think Volkanovski, in terms of mental warfare, psychological warfare, 1-0. Alexander Volkanovski.
As you can see there, Martin Sano is just making his way to the scales. He's taking on
Martin the Spartan. What a great nickname.
the king of the nickname knowledge.
A little overplayed at this point, Nick. How many Spartans we had? My God, come on.
That's right, yeah. Well, this guy's actually been inactive since 2017. And here he is making his UFC debut. You might be thinking, that's absolutely bonkers, especially because he lost his last 2 fights in 2017 as well. But let me tell you that this is Nick Diaz's training partner. This is a Nick Diaz team athlete. And apparently, Nick Diaz being on a UFC card these days also includes a couple of his boys getting on the undercard. Hey, if you've got the power, why not?
Philadelphia's Chris Daukaus.
Getting a few quid for the lads. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's always good to share a training camp with your training partners. You know what I mean? Because you're all working towards the same thing, and you're all as motivated to be at the training sessions, to be at the morning runs, to be going through everything together. You know, if you can get 2 or 3 people to do that with, to share that experience, to go through the not only the physical hardship, the mental hardship, to go through it with you, and then
the official weight for Chris Daukaus.
Then you arrive in Vegas together, you cut weight together, you're going through this, you're all eating the same things. It's a really great team chemistry that you're building, and you feel good going into there. So fair play to Diaz. If you've got the power, why not use it?
Absolutely.
Chris Daukaus just coming through there. Obviously, he's in a heavyweight fight, and you've just brought up
our next fighter to the scale in the UFC's featherweight division.
His opponent,
live on UFC Fight Pass Saturday night.
I don't think he's fought since 2019, has he? There's been a delay with his career as well. I think he actually had fights with Cyril Gane, booked about 5 times, and they all fell off, didn't they?
Yeah, well, over the last, as you say, since 2019, Abrech has had, this is his 6th fight that's been made. And I don't mean moving dates. I don't mean a change of opponent. I mean actual specific dates. This is the 6th one he's had in succession over 2 years. So it's not by, it's not from that he hasn't tried to be active, but he's just been, suffered misfortune. But I'll tell you what, it's a tough one to come back.
Jonathan Pierce.
He could have had Cyril Gane. That didn't happen. But now he's got Daukaus, who maybe hasn't got the prestige of a Cyril Gane, but you could argue is just as dangerous. The kid's on a 9-1 run. Well, I say the kid, the Philly police officer that we've just seen weigh in, is on a 9-1 run. And a bunch of them in the UFC. I think 3 first-round knockouts in the UFC. Hey, he may not be body beautiful, but not all of us are. It's all that matters.
Hey,
he does
listen,
the business.
I like the way you've done that, Nick.
Yeah, you could draw a lot of parallels from Daukaus and Tom Aspinall. They're both making a similar kind of impression on the heavyweight, and I believe both of them are the future of the heavyweight division. Of course, you got the greats, you got the champs, and all the rest of it. But Tom and Chris Daukaus, or is it Kyle? Sorry, pardon me, Kyle. No, Chris. Which one was it, Chris or Kyle?
Chris. It was Chris Daukaus.
I just saw him on the screen. I should have known this. Yeah, Chris and Tom, though. Yeah, they're keep them away from one another, because that's a logical matchup. But I wouldn't do that because one of them's got to lose. You know what I mean? But we'll see how the UFC play it.
From a fight fan's point of view, tomorrow at UFC 266, I think Nick just kind of brought that up there. Daukaus has only been the distance once, hasn't he? And that's the only time that he ended up getting out of the second round. It's going to be interesting to know where Shamil's at, because we've not seen him for a long period of time. You would think, given his past record, that he would be looking to get hold of his opponent early doors and try and shut that distance down, because you don't want to let Daukaus let his hands go on you in those first 5 minutes, because it could be catastrophic, especially
All right,
when
next
you've been
fighter
out
to the scale is the former
years.
UFC strawweight champion and the #1 ranked flyweight contender, Jessica Andrade.
I think
How many
you're right,
months?
Adam, but the only way to look at it, though, is that Abrek is a 5-time Russian Sanshu champion, and that's like a Chinese boxing striking art. So I don't think he's won a grapple. I think he will want to stand and bang with Daukaus. So for me, that's the fight that definitely doesn't go the distance.
Hold on. How are you not saying his name?
Jessica Andrade.
Oh.
Are you talking about Shamil Abdurakhimov? What did you say? What is that?
Abrek.
My
Abrek
God,
is his
boys.
nickname. His nickname is Abrek.
Oh, okay. If that's his nickname, fair enough. I'm like, Jesus Christ. They have shortened Abdurakhimov to Abrek. I'm like, my God, the Scousers are on the next level with this lot. My God. And BT Sport are just letting this fly.
All right, next
Listen,
athlete up in the UFC's middleweight division, making his UFC debut tomorrow, Cody Brundage.
Listen, you've just used the word Scouser there. According to Cody Garbrandt, I don't know if you've seen this week, gentlemen. Scousers are actually now referred to as sorcerers. Sorcerers, that's right.
Oh, yeah. And not only did he refer to it as sorcerer, they can't even say the word Scouser. They say Scouser.
185 and a half.
With it like a Z.
Wait for Cody Brundage.
There's a lot of English words they can't say, a lot of swear words that I won't go into, obviously. But yeah. Oh, what did he say? Oh, he can't get knocked out because he's a sorcerer. And I was like, oh my God,
yes,
Cody,
right.
Come on, mate. Jeez Louise.
No, I
mean, I know you can't.
Right,
I know you can't understand it, but you've added syllables. You can't do that. Scouser, sorcerer, 3-2, mate. Definitely not sorcerer.
Sorcerers don't get knocked out, mate.
Give me a break.
Hey, this guy,
don't get knocked out.
This guy, Jalen Turner. So he was one of my main training partners when I beat Rockhold when I fought Anderson Silva. For
Jalen Turner.
Of course, much smaller than me, so I enjoyed beating him up for a while. But his skills are fantastic. I'm joking. We were just doing light sparring. I'm telling you this. He had some tough matchups. Of course, he went up against Vicente Luque. He went up a weight class for that. Took it on short notice. But I'm telling you, keep an eye on Jalen Turner because his kickboxing is absolutely phenomenal.
Is he stuck between weight divisions, Mike? Is he stuck between lightweight and welterweight? Is he one of those guys that falls between the cracks a little bit?
Exactly. He's a little too big for 155. He's a little too skinny and slim for 170. But he's still young, so you never know. He might fill out a little bit. But I think he made weight there. No problem. He's big. He's very tall. He's very fast. His reflexes are ridiculous. He actually... Anderson Silva was his inspiration, and you can see that from the way he fights and the way he trains. And he couldn't afford any training equipment. What he got was an old couch, and he stood it up in his garage, and that was like his first ever boxing bag, punch bag, if you will, in the garage, and that's what he used. And then he watched videos on YouTube, worked it on the couch in the garage, and then before you know it, had his first professional fight. Unbelievable stuff.
Wow. That's incredible.
6 fighters still to weigh in, just in case you are joining us. We've got the main event in Volkanovski and Ortega. We've got half of the co-main event in Valentina Shevchenko. We're waiting for Lauren Murphy. She's one of the 6. And I don't know if you can see that on your screen there, gentlemen. There's a poll currently running on the social media sites at BT Sport UFC. And only 5%. 5%, that's right, of our audience believe that Lauren Murphy is going to be getting a hand raised. That's the magnitude of the task that she faces tomorrow evening, Mike.
Yeah, and listen, that's perfectly understandable. You can't blame people for going against it because when you look at the skill sets, you forget about the momentum for a second. You forget about the fact that Shevchenko's been this dominant champion and the only flyweight champion the UFC's ever had. Forget about that. If this was just a matchup, two ladies that we don't know, if you compare the skill sets, Shevchenko's way ahead anyway. And then when you compare that to the momentum that she does have, the confidence that she has, which she uses confidence, and rightly so, because she makes short work of everybody. And confidence is your best friend. As a fighter, I say it all the time, can also be your worst nightmare and it's undoing if you get too confident. But I don't think that is going to be the case. I do believe that is the path to victory for Lauren Murphy, that Shevchenko makes a mistake in her mental preparation and comes in a little cocky. I don't think that will happen, though. There's a reason Shevchenko is so good. And it's the same reason she's so confident is because she's bloody good and she's a professional and she does everything correctly. So I think 95 to 5%, I think that's a fair reflection, to be quite frank.
You know, a lot of Murphy's tactics, Mike, obviously, she's never been stopped. So she's obviously got a terrific chin. She's obviously got a great heart. Should her tactic be then to fly at Valentina, to catch her off guard, to try and catch her early with a big shot and upset her rhythm early on? And let's be honest, take a chance. Think, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not here to do 5 rounds. I'm here to hurt you and hurt you as soon as possible and see what happens.
It's not a bad strategy, Nick, to be honest. You know, you got to catch her off guard. Maybe that's something that Valentina would not be expecting. And we saw Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia controlled Valentina for a little bit. You know, Lauren's got decent grappling as well. Go forward. You just, you know, not here for a long time, here for a good time. Just go forward, swing, go a little bit crazy, a little erratic, a little unexpected, and then finish a combination with a takedown. That could get her off to an amazing start. You know, as I say, Valentina Shevchenko is incredible, but she's not superhuman. Yeah, she is not superhuman. Everybody can be beaten.
For those that do like to maybe place a wager on particular fights, I'll get to that. That's on the screen in a moment or two. But for people that like to place a little bit of a wager, Nick just brought up something very valid there with Lauren Murphy never being stopped. And if you follow patterns in fights, Valentina Shevchenko's finish to decision ratio is currently pointing in the direction that this fight will actually go to a decision at the weekend. So there you go. So if you like a little bit of a wedge and you believe in patterns, have a little bit of a nosy at that. Now then, your old pal, Michael, enjoys St. Pierre finally picking up his trophy and his brand spanking new jacket, courtesy of the Hall of Fame. Obviously, we found out that he was going to be part of the Hall of Fame quite some time ago. But last night at the ceremony was inducted officially into the Hall of Fame. A fantastic, fantastic accolade, a thing that you've obviously experienced yourself. And when you start off your career, I'm sure that you don't think of being inducted into the Hall of Fame, but when it eventually happens, it must be an incredibly proud moment.
Yeah, no, of course it is. I'm incredibly proud, and I'm incredibly proud of George. George is one of the good guys in this sport. You know, in fact, I'll tell a quick story while we've got time. 2006, I'm training for the Ultimate Fighter. I had visa issues myself, so they flew me out there way early. I'd spent 6 weeks in Vegas, and I had no one to train with. And they said, oh, George St. Pierre is in town. He'll train with you. And I've never met George. All of a sudden, I get a phone call in my bedroom at the hotel. It's the front desk. Yeah, Mr. St. Pierre's downstairs waiting for you. Came and picked me up. We trained together all summer. And they didn't even know the guy. Do you know what I mean? Just an absolute class act. And he's actually the guy, when we were training together, tore my PCL training with him right before the fight. And that I went on to have a knee replacement. So thank you, George. Yeah, the guy's a consummate professional. He's an incredible martial artist. He's a very, very humble human being. And honestly, him being in the Hall of Fame, I mean, it was all, you know, it was just a formality, him being put in, because he was already a shoe-in. He's the most natural fit for the Hall of Fame. And I couldn't think of a better person to lose my belt to. I really couldn't. I have so much respect for the man.
Mike,
where'd you keep your jacket?
Where's your jacket?
Rebecca!
Do you wear it for bar mitzvahs and christenings and weddings?
Get the jacket on.
I'll go get it. I'll go get it.
Come on, let's see it. I love it.
Got him, man.
Listen,
we can't do a show without the Hall of Fame without the jacket on.
Mate, when he goes on tour around Europe, I'd be devastated if I bought a ticket to see Michael Bisping and he didn't have the jacket on. Come on. If I had a Hall of Fame jacket, I'd wear it every day.
Pajamas, mate. I'd sleep
Absolutely.
in it. I'd have it on constantly, all the time, yeah.
And a belt. Where's the belt? I'd never take it off.
He knows exactly where that is in his house, right? He's going to blag now that he can't find it. He knows exactly where it is. I reckon he uses it as a smoking jacket. You know what I mean? When friends come round to the house, he has a little cravat on, little pipe and what have you, with the old Hall of Fame badge knocking about. That's how I'd roll.
Put it on, send the kids to cinema.
Here he is.
Look at that.
I'll tell you what, it's a little snugger than when I got given it. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Mate, that is beautiful.
Oh my God. You know what? Only time
You're going to have to bring that to Europe for your tour. You're going to have to wear that on stage.
Well, there's another word that I won't repeat on this program that I'll get called. So not going to do that. But yeah, there you go. Why not?
Amazing.
Why not?
Absolutely.
It's a bit bloody small. I could rip out of this. I tell you what, my God. I didn't realize I'd put so much weight on. If I just did it right now, this would just go rip to pieces. But I've been doing a lot of bicep work, so you know.
That's it, man. For people that are just joining us, we're not just sat here just having a laugh. We are actually weighing in fighters. We're still waiting for 6 to join us. Lauren Murphy, one of those. Obviously, one of the key ones as well that's in a title fight. The main event, the title fight at 145 pounds. They're both weighed in. They're done and dusted, as is Valentina Shevchenko. We're waiting for Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler as well. I know that you're waiting for those. Curtis Blades and Jorginho Rosenstruck. It's always the heavyweights that keep us waiting, isn't it? We're waiting for those guys as well. I think we've got one on the prelims too, with the newly nicknamed. What did you call him, Nick? What was the new nickname for Abdurakhimov?
Oh yeah, what's his actual nickname is Abrek.
All right, Abrek. Yeah, we're waiting for Abrek. Everybody else is weighed in, and it's all job done there. So they're the 6 fighters that we're currently waiting for, which kind of leads me on nicely, boys. Oh, look at our production team. They're flying here. This is like they're reading my mind. Nobody's told me that we were going to do this. I wanted to bring this up because this is hopefully going to lead us in nicely to our matchmaking sequence that we have recently done. Because if you remember on the first matchmaking sequence, Mike, this was the fight that you said that the UFC should be making. Now, we've seen Leon come out on social media, says, yeah, I'm having nothing to do with the Jorge Masvidal fights, even though the narrative is there. But last night, Dana White did give an interview to Robbie Barstool. Congratulations to Robbie. This is a brilliant piece there. Dana was sat in the war room. He's looking at the big screens and what have you. And he insinuated that they are 99% of the way done for Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards. There you go, Mike. You've got your fight that you predicted would happen about 6 weeks ago.
Well, I mean, I don't exactly deserve any awards for predicting that one. I mean, it was almost as obvious as the picks that you guys come out with. But listen, I was getting a little frustrated with Leon, if I'm honest. Listen, I know the guy wants to fight for the championship, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen for whatever reason. And if he waits, then as we know, if Colby wins, they're going to do a rubber match. So he's got to wait there. If one of them gets injured and needs a surgery, there's another way. In the meantime, if Vicente Luque goes out there and knocks out his next opponent, maybe he jumps the line. Do you know what I mean? So you can't sit around thinking that you're going to get the title fight. And for me, fighting Masvidal, one of the biggest names in the sport, one of the most exciting fighters. And of course, when we all know what happened in 2019 with the 3-piece and the soda, the marketing is there. This will be a huge fight, and if he can beat Jorge Masvidal, then that's it. He fought for the belt the last 2 times. If he beats Masvidal, there is no more if, buts, maybes. It's when is my title fight. If he beat Diaz, if he beats Masvidal on top of all the other wins that he had, as I say, you cannot deny this man any longer. So therefore, go out, get revenge against the person that assaulted you backstage, beat him up, make him look stupid, and solidify your title fight. There it is.
Obviously, they're the words of Dana last night with his interview with Robbie. We haven't had any official confirmation as of yet, but hopefully that can get made this year. We've got some fantastic shows coming up before the end of the year. If we can get that made, which hopefully will align with the title fight, which is happening on November the 6th in New York City, Nick, we could be on for something very special at the start of next year, should Leon come through, because it's not an easy fight against Jorge, but should he come through, there could be something very special for British MMA at the start of next year.
Absolutely. And listen, he's clearly not getting the next shot. That's done. It's locked down. And as Mike says, there could well be a 3rd fight on the back of it. So who else is he going to fight? You know, Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque. Who else has he got to fight? He's got to fight somebody. He can't just sit around. That's what shocked me about Leon's comment the other week where he said, "No, what? I'm not interested in a guy who's just lost his last 2. Thanks very much. I'm just going to wait for the belt." That's not really worked out for you so far, Leon. You've been waiting for the belt for a long time. You've got to make it happen. You've got to go out there and go, right, I'm not going to leave this one to doubt. And to be totally honest with you, Jorge Masvidal, his profile is much bigger than the other 2 guys. Yes, he is coming off 2 losses. He's potentially on his way back down the mountain in his career. I'd take that fight all day over a Gilbert Burns or a Vicente Luque fight.
All right, next
so I think
fighter
he's
to
bonkers.
the scale
it makes
is the man many of you came to see
Leon
back
Edwards.
for the first time
As
since
soon as I read that
2015 in the
today,
UFC's
I
middleweight
thought Leon
division,
should be all over
the
social media
iconic
saying,
Nick
"Boom,
Diaz."
yes, Dana, I'm in. Just tell me where and when. Let's make it happen." It's crazy. It's crazy that he's not jumping
Mike,
all
before
over.
you jump in on that, I just want to say that Nick Diaz is making his way to the scales, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. We haven't seen this for the best part of 6 years.
187, 188,
190. 190 I'm going for.
He doesn't look as bad as he did, actually. He could be about 183, actually.
He looks like me with my shirt off right now. That's not good.
185 and a half.
He's actually
Nick Diaz.
So 185 and a half, that says to me he had, and you know, he wasn't the first on the scale. He had no chance of making 170. No chance.
No chance. It's going to be interesting now, Mike, to see what Robbie comes in at. And do you think Robbie, who obviously had started some kind of weight cuts, because this only happened a couple of days ago, so he'd obviously started cutting the weight down. Do you think Robbie might be waiting to see what Diaz weighed in at, or, you know, any kind of mind games like that, or...
No, I don't think it's anything like that. It's just that he knows he's fighting at 185, so there isn't a weight cut. So he's just going to have a nice little lie-in and go down when he wants to. You know what I mean? Get up, slip his tracky bottoms on, throw a T-shirt on, go down, jump on the scale, and then go get breakfast. You know, I don't think there's any theatrics. Robbie Lawler's not that type of guy. These two, they're old school fellas. You know, they've got respect for one another. There was no mind games. There was no nonsense. There was no smack talk or anything like that. It's like, listen, all right, we're going to fight. You want to do it at 185? Fair enough. I don't fancy cutting weight either. And you never know. He might have been able to snag a few dollars out of the UFC for taking it as well. I remember John Gooden what's he called? John from MMA Junkie. Anyway, he asked, he said, you know, did you manage to get a few bucks out of the UFC? And he just said, hey, listen, that's none of my business. I let my manager deal with that. And I know you guys as the media, I know you want to know this stuff, but that's none of your business. And I leave that to my manager. So don't ask about that stuff. And I thought, do you know what, Robbie Lawler? Yeah. Well, bloody said. That is how you handle it as a professional, because what goes on in the negotiation room over contracts and whatnot shouldn't be for the public. Yeah, we want to hear that. Of course we do. But but by rights, if you're truly a professional, you don't talk about that stuff. So long story short, there is a possibility he even earned a few quid out of it as well. And good for him if he did.
Mike, can you just explain to people watching this because Robbie's not going to weight cut now. As Nick just pointed out, he was preparing to fight at 170, so therefore he would have prepared his body ready for a cut at some point this week to get down to 170. But he's not doing that. From a psychological point of view, because you have your routine throughout the course of the week. We do this on this day, we do this on this day, and we get ready by this day, and bosh, I'm ready to go, and we have the rehydration situation. That's not there now. Will that affect him at all, do you think, or will it just play no role whatsoever?
I think it will affect him in a positive way, right? Because for him, it just removes all that stress. It sounds to me, and it kind of looks like, you know, Diaz wasn't in the best shape of his life. He wasn't in bad shape. I'm not saying that, but, you know, he wasn't as ripped as what he normally is. So maybe there was still a slight cutting process for Nick Diaz. Maybe he mismanaged things throughout training camp. Maybe the motivation wasn't there. Who knows? Obviously, he had that very interesting interview this week with Brett Okamoto that left a lot of people asking a lot of questions as to his motivation for this fight. For Robbie Lawler, you're absolutely right. It's a scientific process making weight. You know, you're going to take on so much water at the start. You're going to eradicate all sodiums, all carbohydrates. It's a blooming pain in the ass. The whole process takes a long time, and it's tough. It's tough to go through, and it's physically exhausting and mentally exhausting. And it affects your performance on fight night. It affects your cardio as you get into the later rounds. It affects your ability to take a shot. So for Robbie Lawler, it's just happy days. It takes all of that away. He's going to go with... Ultimately, whether or not they both went through a weight cut, if the fight still gets sanctioned and goes ahead, they're both going to fight at whatever weight they were going to be. Now they just both haven't had to have that strenuous weight cut. And I think for us watching, it's going to deliver an even better fight.
Is the number 3 ranked UFC women's flyweight contender taking part in her first UFC title fight here tomorrow, Lucky Lauren Murphy.
Here we go. The contender, Lauren Murphy, in that co-main event for Valentina Shevchenko's flyweight title. We're just having a few problems, few glitches with our intermittent feed from Las Vegas, but she's
125, the official weight for Lauren Murphy, and that makes your women's flyweight championship fight official.
Looks good, looks healthy, and looks happy as well there, Nick. Looks like she's ready to rock and roll, and as you said right at the start of the show, a real opportunity here to overturn that underdog status, which is obviously being put on her. Rightfully so, because of the legendary status that Shevchenko holds coming into this fight tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think the fact, you know, it's taken her 40 minutes to weigh in probably means that she had a couple of pounds to go this morning. So it's probably been a little bit tough. You could tell there by the way she was dancing when she walked away from the stage that she was just elated to have actually made championship weight. But it's done now. That's the hard part done, if you like. You know, the fight that she's been demanding, the fight that she's been calling for, that most of the flyweights are running away from, she's got it now. It's here now. You've done the hard part. You've made weight. Now just enjoy yourself. There's no more pressure on you now, Lauren. You've done what you are contractually obliged to do. You made weight. Fantastic. Go and rehydrate. Go and get in a good headspace. And more than anything at this point in her career, at the age she's at, just enjoy it. You know, you've worked your whole life to get to UFC gold. More than anything, enjoy it and do yourself proud. And I think that's what her coaches will be telling her now as well. You've done the hard part. We've got here. Just enjoy Saturday night now and don't leave anything outside the octagon. Leave it all in there and just go for it. And that's why I think she might start fast, set an early pace, and just try and catch Shevchenko off guard.
Mike, it's a fully
I'll just jump in there.
Show. I was going to say,
yes,
just on the screen there, I don't know if you can see that. With it being a fully interactive show, people obviously chipping into the things that we're talking about. If Valentina does come through, does it have to be the trilogy with Nunes next, do you think?
I mean, I think everybody wants to see that. You know, those fights were close, and they are by far and large, you know, the two best female fighters on the planet. And Shevchenko's the only competition for Nunes. And Nunes is the only, if Lauren loses, the only competition for Shevchenko. Let's be honest. But I just want to touch on what Nick said there, because he's absolutely right. That there's no pressure on Lauren Murphy, right? Now, to get into a number one contender fight or to win your fights in the UFC, when you first get signed with the UFC, I'm in the UFC now. I want to stay here. I want to make money. I want to get sponsors. That all brings pressure. And that affects your performance. It affects the way you are in the training camp, and it affects you on fight night, because the mind controls everything. And when you're under pressure, because you know you're second guessing everything, there's no pressure on Lauren. And again, I'm not bringing it back to me, but I can speak from experience. When I fought Rocco for the belt the second time, I had no pressure because I knew I was meant to lose, right? I took the fight on 2 weeks' notice, and if I lost, so what? It was a gangster move for stepping up anyway. So I went out there. I had zero pressure on my shoulders. And the difference was, when I was standing by the octagon before the fight started with my team, I was making jokes with Jason Perillo. And when I squared up, when I went to touch gloves, he says, no touch. And I'm backing up and go, no touch. I'll touch you in a second, mate. I didn't say mate. I said something else.
You didn't say mate.
Yeah, I didn't. But the fact in that moment, I'm making wisecracks, shows how calm I was, shows how I wasn't feeling the pressure. And I went out and had one of the best fights of my life. And that's what Lauren Murphy is going to feel here. She isn't going to feel pressure because she's showing up. She's made weight. She's doing a job. Everybody already expects her to lose. That's going to make her more dangerous than normal. So well said, Nick. There you go. Sorry. And yeah, Nunes next.
There you go. So, Mohammed, thank you very much for sending in the question that you would have liked answered. Mike answered his own question and then obviously answered yours just at the end there. All right, mate. So hopefully that is a few more people to get involved with the show. All our social media channels are well and truly open for you. If you are just joining us, by the way, we've got the main event. They've all weighed in. Job done. We've got the co-main event. They've weighed in as well. We're just waiting for Robbie Lawler to get through for the people's main event. Nick Diaz has come through and he weighed in at 185.5. We're still waiting for the two heavyweights that are featured on the main card as well. And then a little bit further down the card, a man that's not fought for 2 years. He is a heavyweight again. Shamil Abdurakhimov. We're waiting for him as well. So 3 heavyweights we're waiting for, and Robbie Lawler. All right. So hopefully they'll come through nice and fast, and we can speed the show along. What's this here? Has someone tweeted you here, Michael? Let's have a look here. Out of the 3 main fights, who is more likely to get the KO, and which matchup favours going the distance? We'll go to you first, Nick, on that one then. We'll go to you on that one first. Out of the 3 main fights, I assume they're referring to the 2 title fights in the people's main event there. Where's the more likely finish going to come from?
I personally think there's going to be a finish in the people's main event. You know, I just think Diaz and Lawler will only throw down. That's all they can do. I think if it was a 3-rounder, I would certainly go with maybe it going the distance. But the fact that it's 25 minutes of fight, and Nick Diaz, after so long out of the octagon, he doesn't look physically ready for 25 minutes of high-tempo fighting, which is how he fights, front foot, letting his hands go. And Robbie Lawler wants revenge, man. Robbie Lawler, to us, we're joking, saying, it's 17 years in the making. Listen, for Robbie Lawler, that's 17 years of highlight reels showing him getting knocked out. So Robbie Lawler wants to prove a point. He's the guy that's been active. He's the guy that's been UFC champion. He's the guy that has been around doing the work while Nick's been away, enjoying himself or taking time away from the sport. I think Robbie Lawler wants to prove a point. So I think that's where the finish is coming. I think you touched on it before. Shevchenko's win record is finish points. She's due at points. So I think the co-main event, the Shevchenko Murphy fight's going to go the distance. I think Lauren's just going to, be tough as all boots in there and try and get something maybe early or at the end. And then, listen, I've got to be honest, the main event, maybe I can leave this one to Mike, but for me, flip a coin. Volkanovski on points, Ortega by submission, Volkanovski by ground and pound. I can see that one going every way.
Mike, what's yours?
Yeah, I do agree with the finish being in the Diaz and the Lawler, because both of those guys, they are ferocious fighters. And yeah, they've been around a long time and they're a little bit older now, and it's 17 years later. As Nick said, Robbie's seen that on highlight reels for 17 years, getting knocked out. Of course, as a fighter, you want to get that one back. And now he's been given the opportunity, an opportunity that he never thought he'd ever see. So, and that's why he took the fight 185. It's like, yeah, whatever, I've done what I need to do. Robbie Lawler's a professional. He's come in, he's in shape. He looks in better shape than Nick. And he's motivated because he was on the receiving end last time. And Nick Diaz, we know how the guy fights, and regardless of what people are saying and what they're speculating about this week about him being scared, he's not scared. He was just being honest. All fighters go in scared, right? Every one of my fights, I was like, why do I do this again? But then afterwards, you're like, great, I can't wait to do this again. That's what Nick Diaz was just being brutally honest. All fighters have these doubts. All these journalists and these people taking what he said and saying, I don't know what I'm doing here and all the rest of it, that he was just being honest, right? And people that are second guessing his intentions or reason for being there, they just don't understand the emotions of the fight game. I think in the main event, we're going to see a decision. I think I stand by it. I think Volkanovski does it. MMA math doesn't stack up, of course, but if you look at the number of significant strikes, there was a stat doing the round this week, Analyst of the Year, baby. I don't remember the exact numbers, but in the 2 fights that Volkanovski had with Holloway, he took on less significant blows from Holloway than what Brian Ortega did in 1 fight. Do you know what I mean? So the elusiveness and the movement of Volkanovski is going to, it's all on his side, and defensive stats are great to have as well. It's all well and good landing more shots than the other guy, but absorbing less shots is also a huge advantage as well. So I think he's just got more skills on the feet, which is where I think the fight's going to take place. So I've got Volkanovski in that one by a decision more than likely. And yeah, I do see Lauren Murphy going out there and going to a decision as well. You never know. Listen, this is Shevchenko. She could pull out a beautiful head kick, a spinning back kick. She could get her in a crucifix. She could probably do whatever she wanted to and get a finish. But I have a sneaky feeling that Lauren Murphy's going to do herself proud. She is going to give a good version of herself. She's going to be very happy with the performance. I don't believe she's going to go away as the champ, but I believe that she'll be able to look back and say, well, do you know what? I gave her a good go. And fair play to Lauren Murphy. And unfortunately, there is a danger for Lauren Murphy that she's going to be happy that that's what she gets. There is a little part of Lauren Murphy that she probably doesn't even know it. It's not at the forefront of her consciousness. It's at the back of her consciousness. She's happy to be there and doesn't really want to go for the finish because she's just happy to give a good account of herself and go to a decision. Right. And that sometimes fighters have that without even realizing that. I've been there myself. You're just happy to be there. It's not the mindset you should have. But still, to answer the question, roundabout fashion, I agree with Nick. Diaz, Lawler. And I wouldn't be surprised actually now if Lawler pulls it off.
I'm kind of edging towards that myself as well. Gents, in our preview show, I will get to that question that's on the screen in a moment. I just want to talk about some of the fights on there as well, because it's a great card, 266, and the prelims are stacked as well. In our preview show, you both picked individual fights, of which you highlighted and for our audience to obviously get stuck into. I'll come to you first, Nick. You pick your fight, Dan Hooker and Nasrat Haqparast, way before the visa situation. In fact, I think you even picked it before we found out about Nasrat's situation with the passing of his mother. Has your opinion on that fight changed in any way, shape or form, given the crazy narrative that this fight has taken on over the last 7 to 10 days?
No, listen, I always thought it was going to be a fight of the night contender just because it's a guy who's been heavily ranked at the top of the division. That's been in a lot of main and co-main events. That's been, a bit of a poster boy, if you like, for Australasian MMA, taking on a guy like Nasrat that is desperate to break into the top 10. That's desperate for the opportunity, like so many fighters are. But a guy with so much skill and ability that, given that I thought he could actually begin. Whether Anok was the right fighter, I don't know. So I already thought there was a lot of narratives playing out here, because it was really one end of the spectrum meeting somewhere in the middle. Then throw in Nasrat's mentality, where his mind's at, because he had to leave the US to go back home to unfortunately attend his mother's funeral and everything else. And then the fights he's had to come back because of the visa issues, getting back into the US. And then, of course, Dan is trying to get back in out of New Zealand, which is kind of insane. But then, we heard from Dan just before the weigh-in show, and he was saying, it's normal for me. I remember I used to jump on a flight the day before I had fights over in China and land the night before and weigh in the next day. And I did that for $1,000. So, of course, to me, it's nothing different. I think sometimes we get wrapped up in the fact that this is the UFC. It is the big show. It's the biggest platform in all of MMA. But these guys have been on journeys, and Mike could tell us amazing stories about him having smoker fights early in his career when he was taking fights at ridiculous late notice and against all the odds and everything else, and just turning up and just throwing down. I think both these guys have gone, listen, we're fighters. That's what we do. Of course we're going to make weight. Of course we're going to get there. No need to change the weight division, UFC, even though certain people were saying they should move the weight division up there. Well, right now, man, we're professionals. Doesn't matter. When we get there, we'll make weight, and on Saturday night, we're going to fight. You've got to respect that. Now more than ever, I want them to have fight of the night, so they both guaranteed a $50,000 bonus for the sacrifice and basically the commitment to the sport that they're doing. Both role models, unbelievable.
That's well said as well. And Mike, just on that, and keep going on that, I think sometimes in the mainstream media, the athletes that participate in mixed martial arts aren't as respected as, in my opinion, as they should be. There isn't enough spotlight on the sport with the sacrifices that these guys and girls go through in order just to do their job. It's a crazy, crazy way to make a living. These guys this week have been incredible role models for the sport. And I know that we're obviously always talking about Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler as the people's main event. I'll tell you something, this could be the people's main event as well. There'll be a lot of people rooting for this fight because of the lens these guys do to get it on.
Oh, absolutely. And they forever have my respect for what they've done this week. And you got to remember, right, mixed martial artist fighters, we're not surrounded by these teams and I'm not trying to take a dump on footballers. Right. But, there's a lot of professional athletes that get wrapped in cotton wool. Do you know what I mean? They have these huge teams around them, and they have these huge support networks and massive amounts of resources. And they're in between every 5 minutes, someone's giving them a toe rub or a massage, and they got the nutritionist, they got all this, all the rest of it. These guys, they're tough guys. They're from different parts of the planet. And they say, you know what? I'm going to fly in the day before. I'm going to land. I'm going to make weight. And then the day after, I'm going to fight in the most brutal sport on the planet. If that doesn't command your respect, and on top of that, they made weight. They made weight. They had every excuse not to make weight, and it would have been understandable. And at any point when they were in the sauna and they're like, oh, I've got 5 more pounds to go. Screw it. Let's just go out there and say we didn't make it. He probably won't make it either, right? And it would have been forgivable. No. Do that. They stayed the course. They did their job. They did what they were contractually obliged to do. And they did it all without making a big song and dance about it. I'm going bloody red in the face. They did it without making a big song and dance about it. And they did it without the massive support networks that they had, that other big time athletes have. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, of course, they've got trainers and whatnot, but they haven't got these, like a football team. Can you imagine the amount of people that are packing their bags for them, but handling their flights, packing their bags, giving them a massage, whatever it bloody is. Do you know what I mean? These guys, they're cut from a different cloth. They've flown from New Zealand to Las Vegas, landed, made weight. Let me tell you, for anyone that hasn't made weight, that process is hellish. That's one of my favorite things about being retired, is that I don't have to make weight anymore, because it's painful. And it probably takes years off your life, certainly time off your fighting career. It's a hard process. They've done that, and now they're going to fight tomorrow when they've just landed. It's incredible.
It is, man. It is. Mike, I know that you went red in the face there, obviously talking about Nick's fight, because it's a tremendous fight. I want you to talk about your fight now, because you picked out Marlon Moraes against Divilashvili. And this fight, again, is absolutely captivating. We kind of said this when both men weighed in, especially from a Marlon point of view. His last 4 fights, there's a real argument that he's lost all 4. He's got a victory there against Jose Aldo, but it was a very close fight. Even Dana White, as you pointed out, said that he lost it. He's been TKO'd in the other 3 fights as well. And this is all off the back of fighting for a vacant title, if we remember, which he ended up losing that fight. It's a crazy, crazy fall from grace. There's questions over his gas tank. People have questioned that. And the UFC have now paired him up with a guy that is just like a wasp on a hot summer's day around a pint glass. He just is relentless. He's He's unbelievable, isn't he? And he's a tremendous wrestler.
Better not come around my pint glass in the Bay Garden. He'll get it smashed over his head. No, listen, you've got to worry for Marlon Moraes in this fight. If I'm his manager, I've got real concerns, because you go back a few years before this skid started, a couple of years, whatever it was, 2019, I believe. He looked like the future of the division. You know, remember he did cut that awesome promo once. I don't care, just give me my title shot. I can't do a high squeaky voice like he can, but he was knocking everybody out with the head kicks. He was looking sensational. He was a finisher, and he looked like the future of the division. That's all gone away. That narrative has changed. And Merab Dvalishvili, here's a guy, you know what I mean? A lot of people are avoiding this man because he hasn't got the name, he hasn't got the star power, but he's certainly got the style and the skills to beat a lot of people in that division, you know? So for Marlon Moraes, this is a really tricky fight, because Merab is just so tough, and he's got such a great style that's going to nullify all the great parts of Marlon's game. Marlon's an excellent striker, right? But he needs space to operate. Merab's going to be in his face. That's how you beat this guy. Get in his face, get a hold of him, put him down on the ground, make it a dirty fight, grind it out, do a lot of damage, ground a pound, get back up, fight against the fence. He's going to stand at a distance and allow Marlon to use the beautiful kicking game that he has, or the nice fast shots that he has. He's going to be in his face. So yeah, it's a good fight. I like it. I'm a fan of it, but it's a tough fight for Marlon Moraes. Tough fight for Merab as well. Don't get me wrong. This isn't a foregone conclusion. It is not a foregone conclusion, but it is. If I was putting money on this, I would lean towards Merab.
I know that Mike's just said there, Nick, that he doesn't have that big fan base, I suppose, or he's the star name, but he does seem, Merab, to have a little bit of a cult following amongst like the hardcore MMA fans. There's a lot of, he does have a little bit of something there, doesn't he? And this is an opportunity for him. They've given him the top spot on the prelims just before the main card kicks off against the guy that a lot of people know because they'll have seen him in a title fight previously. This is a wonderful opportunity for Merab to put on a performance and announce himself to the audience in order to kick himself on into the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a reason why he's in the spot he's in, you know, at the top of these prelims, because the UFC know this fight will deliver 2 top guys. But they also know that if Merab gets a victory here, then he closes in on a title opportunity. Now, obviously, he's teammates with the champion right now. But the way things are looking, the champion's heading into a rematch with Petr Yan. You know, Aljo, I think, will start that fight as underdog, especially under the circumstances of the way he got the title the first time around. So who knows whether Aljo will still have that belt come the end of the year. And that's not Merab's problem either. Merab just needs to focus on getting himself into the best position possible to fight for bantamweight gold. And one way to do that is to go right through Marlon Moraes. Even though Marlon's not on the best run of form right now, he's still one of the top guys in the world. You know, I think Marlon's ranked in the world and Merab's ranked number 11. There's a reason why. And the level of wins or fought at the same level that Marlon has. This is how he takes a top 5 position, in my opinion. And it's all laid out for Merab. And in terms of his style, this was a style that a few years ago used to rankle with MMA fans, used to upset them because he closed the distance, take them down. You know, it's far from lay and pray, but it's very grappling heavy, lots of ground and pound, lots of activity there. But because of the success of Khabib, the mentality of mixed martial arts fans over the last few years has changed. I think more fans now appreciate the grappling art more and appreciate what Merab and Khabib and a lot of these, you know, Russian fighters, especially Dagestani boys, are doing in there, you know. And listen, they found it all. It's almost like they found a bit of a cheat code. Now, you've got to learn to defend against that cheat code. Otherwise, these guys are going to smash you to bits on the ground. Marlon's got to find the antidote to the cheat code this weekend because we know exactly what's happening tomorrow. Merab's going to close the distance, take him down, and beat him up on the ground. Marlon has got to figure that out, get back to his feet, and put it back, fight back in a position where he's most comfortable.
It's going to be a good fight. For people tuning in, this is the Wayne Show here on BT Sport. We're an hour into it. We've still got an hour remaining. Well, an hour scheduled for the official weigh-ins for UFC 266. You've got a main event. Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega have come through. They've weighed in all good, as has the core main event with Valentina Shevchenko and Lauren Murphy. Nick Diaz has been through. He's weighed in. We're just waiting for Robbie Lawler. The two heavyweights also on that main card. And one further heavyweight still to weigh in Shamil Abdurakhimov. He will hopefully be weighing in very, very shortly. But we've got an hour. They've been given an hour.
Who's that, Adam?
Let's just go with Abdurrahimov, shall we?
Well, we can, or we can just go, or we can go with the actual pronunciation, Shamil Abdurakhimov. But whatever.
There we go. At least one of us is a professional.
Hang on. Abdurakhimov, you're just going off the phonetics. You're going Abdurakhimov. You know what I mean? You've been spending too much time. I'm going off the voice, the recording that we get sent when we commentate. Shamil Abdurakhimov. Okay? Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's how you say the name. Mr. DJ, Mr. Radio Announcer, Mr. BT Sport, Big Wig. Say the name properly or don't say it at all. Shame on you. Shamil. We're waiting for him. Oh, he's got the shame bell out.
The bell of shame. The bell of shame. You got it. You got the bell of shame. I love it.
Oh, gents. Listen, it's not as bad as Cody Garbrandt calling Scouse as sorcerers, so you know what I mean. We're still one up. We're going to go through our matchmaking very shortly, gentlemen, because people have been voting on the fights that we stuck up on the BT Sport YouTube channel this week, and fights that we would like to see in the UFC. We'll get to those in a moment, but there's a little post that has come in there, and it's about John Jones. Richard Schaefer, his advisor, has said that John Jones was 260 pounds last time we saw him. His goal is to get to 275 pounds and basically become the biggest and the baddest heavyweight that the UFC has ever seen. He did rock up at the Hall of Fame showing last night because his fight with Gustafsson, the first one, that was put into the Hall of Fame, that fight from 2013. John is due in the UK next week, and hopefully I'll get to spend a little bit of time with him. I'm going to size him up. I want to know where he's at, because I'll be honest, Mike, I'm sick of talking about it now. I just want to see it, man. Yeah. Get in the octagon. Yeah. I want to see you at heavyweight. What's the delay?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Let's be honest. You know, I mean, come on, the man is one of the GOATs, and people want to see him fight. And he decided to step away from light heavyweight and come back at heavyweight. Okay, nobody forced him to do that. He said, "That's what I want to do." Well, are you going to do it? Are you actually going to fight? Or are you just going to keep putting it off and finding another reason? Before he wanted $30 million. Now he wants to get to 275 pounds. I don't know about you, but putting on 15 pounds of pure solid beef is not an easy thing to do. That sounds like a lengthy process. And I'm only saying this, I'm not throwing shade at the man. And just as a fan, I want to see him fight. When I heard he was going to heavyweight, I got all excited. I thought, wow, this is incredible. If he can go up and become champion of the heavyweight division as well, after reigning supreme for so long at light heavyweight, you cannot doubt that this man is the best to ever do it. But we're yet to see it. We're yet to see any kind of enthusiasm for taking a matchup. We've seen a little sidestepping. We've seen a little dancing around the subject. We've seen whatever it is, money, opponents, whatever reason. Now it's weight. Now he wants to put on another 15 pounds. By the way, I don't think that's smart either. You know, he's going to go in there so much heavier than what he used to be. And it's going to take away from some of his natural attributes like speed and footwork and all the rest of it. When you get so much heavier, an extra 50 pounds, I mean, that's a completely different kettle of fish altogether. So I understand him wanting to be heavier, but still, it just sounds to me like the latest, not excuse, that's too strong of a word, but it's not a reason, but the latest cause for him not taking a fight anytime soon. And as an MMA fan and as a John Jones fan, it's frustrating.
I think a lot of fans are on the same page, aren't they, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, watching him with his Hall of Fame speech yesterday, it felt like we were closer. You know, we talked about, and the tweet mentioned it there, he talked about the fact that he'd appointed Richard Schaefer, and Richard Schaefer was now talking to Dana, which means that John wasn't feeling like he had to go after Dana about money publicly on social media and everything else. He said, I'm in a much better place now. You know, the deal gets done by them. All I've got to do is turn up and fight. But then when pushed on it, he was adamant he wanted to get up to 270, 275. I just don't see why. You know, John is already the biggest heavyweight out there. Now Stefan Struve's gone. He's already the tallest heavyweight in the division before he even starts. He's massive. I just don't know whether all that muscle is just going to take, as Mike said, take away from all his attributes. I just don't know whether now it is starting to feel like a little bit of an excuse, which is super frustrating from a fan's perspective. Is he waiting for, someone like Derek Lewis to suddenly score a big highlight reel, punch of his lifetime, lottery punch knockout to become heavyweight champion, and then suddenly be like, oh, okay, I'll fight for the belt now? Is that what we're waiting for here? Is it the fact that Ngannou and Cyril Gane maybe have got a little bit too well-rounded and he doesn't quite fancy them? But I tell you what, this guy over here, if he was to win the belt, if such and such was to win it, then maybe I'll come out to hide. And it's starting to kind of feel that way. And it kills me to say it because, I'm the biggest John Jones fan there is, but I'm getting a bit tired myself. I feel like rubbing this tattoo off of Johnny Bones Jones and the belt on my arm. I just want to see him fight again.
Well, let me ask you this as well.
I haven't really got a tattoo of John Jones, by the way, Mike. I just make that clear. Okay. It's of Michael Bisping.
All right.
It's of Michael Bisping.
There we go. No. Let me ask you this, lads, because for me as well, him trying to get up to 275, listen, I get it. I understand it, right? But that takes away from the shine, in my opinion, if he was to go and become the heavyweight champion. The idea of being a true pound-for-pound great is say, right, I'm the light heavyweight champ. Now I'm going to go up to heavy. And I'm just going to do it at my weight class now and prove I can beat these guys. Yeah. Because, by the way, without a weight cut, he's already a heavyweight. Probably walks around at 230. Yeah. Guess what? 205 is the light heavyweight limit. Okay? So I understand him wanting to be as heavy as possible. Taking years away to go and do it, it takes away from the sexiness of what he's trying to do here. You know what I mean? You want to see the guy say, hey, he's the light heavyweight champ. Now I'm going to step up to heavyweight, pardon me. I'm going to put a few pounds on. I'm going to step off the diet. I'm not going to run as much or whatever. And I'm going to go up. And by the way, I could go back down to light heavyweight in a couple of months if I wanted to. That's what captures the imagination. That's what makes it so sexy. That's what makes you truly the pound for pound great. The ability to flip-flop between weight classes. He can't do that. If he gets up to 275, he ain't sniffing light heavyweight ever again, or unless he catches some kind of terrible affliction, some terrible disease, or he eats my wife's cooking. You're not going to want to eat that. So, yeah, I don't know. Does it take away? I don't know. Or am I off the mark here? What do you think?
No, I get exactly what you're saying. I think, the main reason why jumping through the weights and becoming a simultaneous champ or a two-weight champion is so impressive is because of that. Because Henry Cejudo went, I've clocked this division, boom, get me another belt in another weight division. Amanda Nunes, boom, okay, I'll go and fight Cyborg up at featherweight, absolutely no problem. Even DC, listen, I'll jump up, I'll go back to heavyweight, I'll come back down to light heavy, and then I'll go back to heavyweight again. And Conor as well, Conor jumping up to lightweight. That's what made it so proud. Adesanya tried to do it. I'm so good in my weight division. I've conquered it now. I beat everyone I need to beat. I need a real test. Take me up to the next weight division. That's why those people are in conversations about the greatest of all time, because they've done something. They've not only won the belt in their weight division, but they've had the audacity and the confidence and the ability to go to the next weight division and win it there as well. Go out of their comfort zone. I think John going away, as you say, and completely rebuilding himself into something completely different. I don't know whether it's quite the same, but then again, Mike, we're talking about people jumping DC aside, jumping 10 pounds. We're talking about John Jones going from light heavyweight to heavyweight. It's a whole different ball game, I guess.
It is a whole different ball game, and that's why I was asking the question. It was just a thought that occurred to me. But anyway, who's this? Who's this, Adam?
This is Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Good lad. Here's Abrek. Here's our mate Abrek.
Yeah. Abrek's on the blooming scales. He hasn't been here for 2 years. Come on, the lad. Get weighed in. Last one on the prelims. This won't be a problem. He's an heavyweight. Come on.
258, the official weight for Shamil Abdurakhimov.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. 258, surely as a heavyweight, he should be coming in at 275. See what I mean? See what I mean? The guy's already 260, apparently. You know what I mean? But anyway, great fight. You're absolutely right. It is a very, very good fight. That last time we saw him, he came up short against Curtis Blades, I think, out on Fight Island. Yeah. But Curtis Blades is no walk in the park for anybody. In fact, he's on this card, isn't he, as well?
Yes, we're waiting for him.
Well, just on that, just on that, because that fight in itself, it seems that we're talking about John and heavyweight contenders and what have you. You look at that fight that's on the main card, Curtis Blades against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and you look at Blades, he's already lost twice to Ngannou. He's coming off a loss to Lewis. Rozenstruik's lost to Ngannou. He's already lost to Gan. What does that fight mean, Mike? I mean, what does it do for either of them at this current present time where there is this bottleneck and backlog of guys at the top of the division?
Well, it's, to use your expression, it's giving Jairzinho Rozenstruik what you refer to as squeaky bum time, because he needs to win this fight. No, it's true though. He needs to win this fight, and this is a terrible matchup for him on paper. Right now, that doesn't mean that Jairzinho can't go out there and find the target and land that knockout punch, but that's essentially his only hope here. Because Curtis Blades is a tremendous wrestler. Curtis Blades is also very smart. He knows what to do. Now, of course, he did get uppercutted out of consciousness the last time he fought Derek Lewis, last time he was in there. But he's an extremely good wrestler. And if he gets top position, his ground and pound is absolutely ferocious, and he generates tremendous power. Jairzinho's a kickboxer. Okay, he's probably got a little bit of takedown defense. He's probably got a little bit of jiu-jitsu. But I don't see him really being able to keep this fight on the feet. Now, I hope he can. I hope I'm wrong. He's a great guy. I've got nothing against him, and may the best man win. I've got no, I've got no money on either way. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't care less who wins. May the best man wins. But Jairzinho came in. He had a big reputation. He started knocking everybody out, and he's had a bit of a fall from grace. He's struggled with some of the matchups, and this is stylistically a terrible matchup for him. For Curtis Blades, he was to get that title shot. He still sees himself as a champion. He's still a young man. If he goes out there, this is a great way to rebound from getting knocked out last time against Derek Lewis. He beats Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and then he's back in those conversations again, because, we still need challenges in the heavyweight division, and he will be, obviously once Cyril Gane and Ngannou figure it out, he'll be, if he wins at the weekend, he'll be one of the next in line.
We're still waiting for both those gentlemen to weigh in, and we're still waiting for Robbie Lawler. They're the only three fighters that we are still waiting for. We've been at this for 70 minutes now. There's another 50 minutes still remaining for the official UFC 266 weigh-in. Don't forget the prelims get underway in the early hours of Sunday morning at 1 a.m. with the main card going down at 3 a.m. on BT Sport. Now, I can't believe what we're about to talk about here, gentlemen, because I genuinely thought when I announced the fight that I wanted to see that I would be taking the crown once again. Took it last time, thought I was going to take it again. We were asked to make a matchmaker's show, which went out on our YouTube channel. Mike went with O'Malley against Cruz. Good fight. I went with Aldo against TJ. Great fight. And then we had Mr. Nicholas Peet, who went with Tony Ferguson against Paddy the Baddy. Absolute ludicrous fight. But the people lapped it up, Mike. I don't know if you can see the thing there. Me and you are neck and neck, pal. We are neck and neck on the poll. The people have lapped up the sorcerer. That's what they've lapped up, haven't they, Nicholas? Talk us through this.
Yeah. But hold on. Disclaimer. Let me just get this in here. Listen, Paddy's the man. Paddy's the only British person in all these conversations, the only British name on there. This is a British show. Yeah. Of course, everyone's going to say Paddy. Yeah. Of course, everyone's going to agree with Nick. But that fight's never going to get made. Never going to get made. Tony Ferguson and Paddy the Baddy. Paddy's awesome. He had a great debut, but he's had one fight. You don't get to take on El Kukui after one fight. That's why Nick lost his mind. That's why I lost my mind. That's why I got so excited. I'm like, yeah, that would be great. It would be awesome. But I guarantee Dana White will slap Sean Shelby if they sit in that bloody, what do you call it, the war room, and Sean Shelby says, what about Paddy and El Kukui? Bang! Big, massive slap from Dana White. I said, don't talk that nonsense.
Maybe this year, but maybe not next year. It's coming. Listen, the people have spoken. That's what we want to see. Paddy the Baddy actually messaged me himself and was like, listen, mate, not on this contract. Maybe on my next contract, but not on this contract, which means he would love to fight El Kukui, but Paddy's not daft. He may look it, but he is not daft. He wants paying to fight El Kukui. You better believe it. But it was a bit of fun.
That's it. Listen, you were what are you talking about? A bit of fun. You were serious, man, and the people lapped it up. Look what you've done.
I've clocked this game now. So when we play it again next week, you wait and see what I've got in store then.
Oh yeah, no. I know what you've got. It's Molly McCann versus Shevchenko. Boom. There you go. And everyone goes, yes, Molly, let's go. And then after that, it's Darren Till back versus Adesanya. Yes. And then it's Arnold Allen versus whoever the 145 champ is. Ortega.
Versus
you know
Francis Ngannou. Yes, let's make them type of fights.
Oh, dear. No, well done, Nick. It was a good one,
You're
though.
learning.
It was a good one. We did get a bit excited there. That was good.
We did, yeah. Great.
No, it was good. It was good. And thank you very much for interacting with us on our social media channels on that. We will make more of those matchmaker fights. I can't believe how many.
To be honest, more than anything,
lapped it
Adam,
up.
I think it was a nice lesson for you to, maybe think outside the box. Me and Mike think outside the box with our matchups, don't we, Mike? We get creative. We get the people going. We give the people what they want. We don't go and search internet websites the day we choose and see what the most popular vote is, or see what Dana White's talking about, or Sean Shelby. We think outside the box. We let our imaginations run wild.
Yeah, but Nick,
exactly,
Nick, we're fight experts. Adam just has surface level knowledge. You know what I mean? So he's got to go to Twitter. He's got to do all that. Do you know what I mean? He's just here to tee us up. Let's be honest. I mean, the man doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm joking, Adam. I'm joking.
Brutal. Listen, right? My fight last time got made. This time, I'm confident that my fight
was
will
already
get
made. It was already made when you mentioned it. It was already done.
Yeah,
it was announced. Sent out. The contracts were sent out.
The flights were booked.
Anyway, I'll keep crossing them in, lads. Are you ready for this one? Here we go. You could get stuck into this. Thank you very much for Azim on our social media. Is October the 30th to November the 6th the best 2 weeks in UFC history? I'll go one further than that. Because seeing as you like stats, Michael. From this weekend, a period of 42 days from September the 25th this weekend, right through to November the 6th, we're going to get 6 undisputed title fights. 4 of those champions, I said this in the preview show, 4 of those champions are fighting the number 1 contender in their respective divisions. This weekend, of course, we've got a champion taking on the number 2 contender. Why? Because he's already beaten the number 1 contender on 2 separate occasions. And we've also got a champion taking on the number 3 contender. Why? Because she's already beaten the number 1 and number 2. This is the place for the best of the best when it comes to fight sports. 42 days, 6 undisputed title fights, and a host of other fights to get excited about. It's a great time to be a UFC fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a great time to be a Michael Bisping person because this camera's making me look like a tomato. So I'm going to get a new camera before that because I don't look like, it's not too bad now. See, I go white and then I go really red. Anyway, to the question there, is October to November 6th the best 2 weeks? I mean, I'm trying to think of 2 other weeks that could rival it right now. And off the top of my head, I can't. But I mean, we've got 2 pay-per-views back to back with how many title fights on those 2 cards?
4. There's 4 on those 2 cards. So you got 2 on each.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got Gagey versus Chandler, and the rest of that fight
that I made.
Is up.
Yeah, the fight. Yeah,
all right.
That's
you know. No, but the entire fight card's ridiculous. It is, and then the Abu Dhabi fight card the week before is ridiculous. So I'm trying to think, and maybe there is, but as of right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. And when you consider as well, the one on October 30th is scot-free. They're not even charging people for it. Now, I know in the UK, is that correct? I'm not seeing any smiles or confirmations there.
No, that's true, yeah. That's true, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I wasn't sure BT Sport charging 15 quid. but like, you know, most of the time, in the States, it's $70. Do you know what I mean? And it's a lot of money. So you're getting world championship fights, you're getting title fights, you're getting an amazing fight card, and it's totally free. And then the week after, you got an incredible pay-per-view, which on paper looks like one of the best cards of the year. So yeah, I mean, as of right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of a better 2-week run.
Well, the historian amongst us in Mr. Nicholas Peet, from my knowledge, and you'll be able to correct me, because I'm sure you will, they've only ever done this once previously, haven't they? Where they've had 2, what you would class as numbered cards, pay-per-view cards, and we're going back years, man, where they've gone back-to-back, week after week. It very obviously, for fight fans of a more regular time and a more modern era, you're getting 1 a month. To do it week after week, unprecedented times.
Yeah, and for the exact reason Mike's just said, because the core market, the US market, it's $70 a pop or $60 a pop or whatever it may have been back then. So to do it back to back is risky business because a lot of people you're forcing them to choose. You know, a lot of people can't afford $140 in the space of 7 days. So you're making them choose one fight card over the other, which is probably why this time around the UFC's gone, right, boom, you can have the Abu Dhabi one for free. We'll just charge you for the next one. Makes absolute sense. People don't have to choose then. So that's probably why they generally do one a month. They try and space them out. I remember going to International Fight Week. Ironically, it's International Fight Week right now, a couple of years ago. And we used to be in a routine, Mike, of doing a Thursday night, a Friday night, and a Saturday night UFC fight card. If you remember, 3 consecutive nights. It was usually the tough finale, I think, on the Friday, and then we had a numbered card on the Saturday. Those were incredible days, you know, spending a week in Las Vegas, and literally you had a media day and a weigh-in day and a fight all on the same day. It was absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, those were busy times, incredible times. But in terms of being 4 title fights in the space of 7 days, I can't think of anything that's been as busy as this, especially on 2 different continents as well.
And legitimate fights as well. These aren't Mickey Mouse fights. What are the title fights on November 6th? Just remind me, because my mind's gone blank.
You got the light heavyweight title fight on Abu Dhabi with Jan and Glover Teixeira. And then you've got the rematch with Sterling and Jan. Which so
2 for 3 there, well. and there again, legitimate fights. That ain't no Mickey Mouse challenger, because they are the correct title fights that should be happening. Glover Teixeira has earned his shot. Sorry, and November 6th is
Colby taking on Kamaru, and then you've got and then you've got Amanda Nunes and Pena as the co-main event, and then as you mentioned a moment or two ago, Chandler versus Gaethje is the people's main event.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not here to not boxing, but you guys know I follow the Fight Disciples. I follow you guys on Twitter. I know you're frustrated with a lot of the practices in boxing.
Ruthless Robbie Lawler.
Oh, here he is. You've a lot of people frustrated with some of the practices in boxing. You don't see that. I mean, look at what the UFC are doing here. I mean, let that be a lesson to the boxing world. But anyway, never mind that. I'll shut up because I don't know what I'm talking about. Here's the man.
Ruthless.
What are we saying?
Not even taking his t-shirt off. They changed the weight, haven't they?
No need.
$184, the official weight for
with the bacon and eggs in his belly as well. 184 all day.
For those that don't know the narrative of that, if you've just tuned into that late, what happened earlier on this week, Nick Diaz requested to change the fight from a welterweight fight, which it would have been 171, with it being a non-title fight for both those guys. That was granted. Robbie, as Mike said earlier on in this show, dealt with it incredibly with so much dignity this week and professionalism. We just seen him there weighing at 184. He was allowed to go up to 186 because the fight has been moved to middleweight. But as you said, Mike, fight's a fight, man. Fight's a fight, and as soon as the cage door shuts tomorrow, he'll be ready to rock and roll, especially given the narrative of what happened in that first fight, what's happened this week. He'll be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, and I think an extra little wrinkle as well is that even though he probably doesn't need any extra motivation, this is just how I would be. And I don't know if Robbie would be the same, but there's a good possibility. If I'm Robbie Lawler right now, and see, look, my face has just gone really red. If I'm Robbie Lawler right now, I'm annoyed because he's getting to call the shots. It's like, all right, okay, it's a shot that I don't mind adhering to. You know, it's now I don't have to cut weight. Now I don't have to go through that process. Okay, so that's not bad. But this guy, who does he think he is? Swanning back after 6 or 7 years and calling the shots and doing this not at the start of the camp, not at the start of the negotiation, saying, okay, let's do this fight, let's do it at 185. Doing it fight week when I've already done, I've made these sacrifices throughout training camp to be able to make 170 or 171. And Diaz, you never know, he might have had this in his back pocket the entire time. I'm not going to dehydrate, so I'm not going to go without those carbs. I'm not going to recover. You know, when you're trying to make 170, you restrict your carbohydrate. That stops the recovery process from going as well. Therefore, the next training session, you don't feel as good. Therefore, you lose muscle. That's why you get lighter. And when you lose muscle, you lose performance. You lose power, strength, and speed. Well, who knows? Maybe Nick Diaz was planning on doing this the whole time. You know what I mean? And has been eating well throughout the entirety of the training camp. So therefore, if I'm Robbie Lawler, if I'm thinking about this stuff, because you got to think his team is saying this type of stuff, don't tell me that no one's had this realization that I am. I mean, I know I'm a genius when it comes to this stuff, but it's pretty obvious. You know what I mean? So if I'm Robbie Lawler, I want to go out there and make this guy pay. So that might just give him an extra little bit of motivation coming into this one.
Mm-hmm. Have you been out in the sun, Mike?
it's this camera. It's on its last legs. I am not red like this. And if you saw, I've got so many lights in the background there. But every 1 minute I go white, next minute I look like I'm an extra from Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. If you remember that movie from the 80s, my God, give me a machine gun. I look like I should be on the front cover. Look, see, I'm white again.
Yeah, you have. That's weird. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's this camera. Impressive. Don't worry. For the next show, I'll have a new one. Don't worry.
Thank you very much for this from Extreme MMA 2 on social media. How far is Volkanovski being the featherweight guy? He's beaten all, though. He's beaten Holloway twice, and now potentially Ortega. Obviously, he's got to beat Ortega. That's tomorrow night. It's a tough fight. I kind of brought this up when interviewing him this week about 145 in general, Nick. And I'm not just referring to UFC, I'm referring right across the board. If we want to bring in Bellator and AJ McKee, what he's done over there, the guys that are in the PFL who were performing
next fighter to the scale, one of the best heavyweights in the world, number 6.
It's a very, very competitive division right across the world, isn't it?
Rosenstrike.
Yeah, let's get him weighed in. But yeah, the problem is that there's so many of them. You know, it's one of the most popular weight divisions because of size and stature. But let's get Rosenstruck weighed in. He's heavyweight, swanning round after being at the buffet. I fancy him for this fight, though. You know, Mike, I know you were saying earlier about Curtis Blades and Blades having, you know, the grappling advantages.
257, the official weight.
The grappling advantages there. But I also look at the fact that Curtis Blades has been knocked out twice by Ngannou and once by Derek Lewis. You know, they're the losses on his record. Big punches. And that's exactly what Rosenstruck is. He's a big puncher. And I think I'd look at that if I was Team Rosenstruck and think, he's got a problem with big punches. He can't take a big shot off guys like us. I know he's beaten Overeem and JDS and people like Mark Hunt who can absolutely punch. But I mean, ferocious big men like Ngannou and Derek Lewis. Rosenstruck is absolutely in that same category. So I kind of like him for that fight. But in terms of... Go on, mate.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, I thought you were done. My bad. And he's getting him at a good time as well. Let's remember, any time a fighter steps back into the octagon or the boxing ring when they were knocked out the last time, there's a lot going on psychologically there. You know, there's definitely doubt. There's definitely these questions that they ask themselves at night. You know, can I still do this? Have I still got this? Because the last time they stepped in there, they were flatlined. They were separated from consciousness. You know, and that's they're demons in the back pocket or in the closet. You know what I mean? That are going to show up at some point.
Go on, Nick, you want to talk about 145?
Yeah, just to go back to the 145 conversation and the original question more than anything else, you know, it's the depth. You know, there's so many guys across the world that measure up to that 145 fight and weight division that it's always going to be competitive. You know, those middleweights are always going to be the most competitive weights just because there's more people of that size and stature. But in terms of being the greatest of all time, I think it's a tough conversation. I think, of course, Volkanovsky in his UFC reign. But for me, he's beaten probably the greatest featherweight statistically in Max Holloway. My only issue there is, on paper, he's beaten him twice. In reality, I think we all know that he hasn't beaten him twice. I think those 10 rounds collectively held together, there's a real strong debate that Max Holloway wins more of those 10 rounds than Volkanovski. I know I'm going to upset any Australian viewers here because of the manner in which he has got 2 points decisions over Max. But I think we need to see that third fight with Max Holloway before we can even start talking about him being in the GOAT conversation. And, of course, he's got to come through tomorrow night as well because Ortega is absolutely no joke.
I agree with everything.
Aldo's the GOAT.
Go on,
by the way, isn't it? I'm going to say
that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Listen,
right, hang on a minute. So you're agreeing with me who doesn't know anything. Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe you just saw that what I just sent to the group chat a minute ago. I said, Aldo, you've been looking down. You've been looking down. I never sent anything to the group chat. No, you're absolutely right, Adam. You know, I think currently, right now, of course, Volkanovski's at the top of the tree. He's the champion, and he's got a tough fight on his hands tomorrow night. But I think, obviously, with recency bias, we're all talking about Holloway and, of course, Volkanovski. But let's go back. You know, Jose Aldo was the man that put this weight division on the map, and he went on such a long tear for so long, so dominant, taking, back in of course the talent now was great as well, but some of the names that he took out, legendary names, Kenny Florian, Cub Swanson, Chad Mendez, the list went on and on and on and on, and he did it with style. So yeah. Jose Aldo still for me.
Yeah, I think, you know what, you're right. Recency bias is a big thing. And I think Jose Aldo became infamous for 13 seconds against Conor McGregor, and it took away a 10-year dominance in this weight division. I think you're absolutely right, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't even mention it myself. But yeah, I think now you've got to measure everybody else against Jose Aldo. For me, Max Holloway's to him. But then again, listen, regardless of what I think, Max Holloway's lost twice to Volkanovski. So I think we need to see that third match to even put them back in the conversation. But yeah, hands up, Scarface, all day, every day, of course.
I think what it does, it just confirms that 145's a shark tank. There's some serious fellas still knocking about. We've had a question here, and we get loads of questions whenever we do this show about Arnold Allen. Where do you think Arnold Allen fits into the featherweight division? Our friend here, Martin, real name, and going off your Twitter handle there, it says that zombie, then title fight, ? Got to get the fights first, haven't they? You've got to get the fights. Arnold Allen is a fantastic mixed martial artist. There's no doubt about that. But it's not just about that, as we say on this show on many occasions. It's all right delivering inside the cage. You've got to deliver on that microphone. You've got to make people care, haven't you? You've got to shout. You've got to make that noise. And that's part of the game that maybe he could learn and develop a little bit more. I think he's got to shout a little bit more, Mike, in order to get the top fights. Then he can showcase those skills and the fans can fall in love with him even further.
Totally agree. And it shouldn't be about that, but the reality is it is. And to kind of summarize it or sum it up in 2 words or 3 words, whatever, he's got the Leon Edwards syndrome. Because Arnold Allen is great. And you can see a lot of similarities in his style to Leon as well anyway, but I'm not talking about that. He's got no weak areas. He's on a tremendous win streak, something comparable to Leon, but he's just falling through the cracks. He's not the guy that people are talking about. He isn't making headlines. So of course, in terms when it comes to skill, absolutely, Arnold Allen should be very, very close to a title fight. Maybe one more fight and then a big win, but I just don't know if it's going to happen. And again, I'm not calling for him to go out there and start being outlandish and talking silly and calling people out and straying from his personality. He has a very nice personality. He's a very nice man. Do you know what I mean? No point going out there and letting himself down and acting like a thug trying to make headlines. You don't have to do that, But I do believe that is holding back his progression to being a title fight, to being a household name in mixed martial arts. It just needs to sprinkle in a little bit of extra something, a little flair, a little personality. And I'm not saying start insulting everybody. You know what I mean? We just needs that little something, that extra little final secret recipe. You know what I mean? That the chef won't give you. That's what's missing with Arnold, because he's got everything else.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said there, Mike. You don't have to smack talk everybody. You don't have to go OTT, do you? I mean, I suppose maybe off the top of my head, the best comparison of recent times might be Lauren Murphy. And I know that that division isn't necessarily as deep as what we're talking about with Arnold Allen here. But if we think back, she's gone in, she's done the business in the octagon. She said the champion's name. Right? She's not been disrespectful. She says the champion's name. She don't get the champion straight away, but she says the name. She's pointing in that direction. She gets another fight. She's consistent then with the message, says the champion's name. And now look at her this weekend. She's fighting the champion. She's getting her opportunity to fight the champion, Nick. And I think maybe that's a lesson that a lot of fighters could take when they're scratching their head and thinking, how's that person got a shot first? Well, you've got to weigh it all up. It's a complete package. It's not just what you're doing inside the octagon.
Yeah, and listen, I think Gilbert Burns is another one to compare him against as well. Every time a welterweight at the top of the weight division fights and wins, Gilbert Burns is like, I'll fight him now. Give me a final eliminator against him. He will literally fight everybody, and that's all he cares about. And that's what you've got to be like. You've got to be active on social media, whether you hate it or listen. I'm terrible on social media. It drives me potty, but it's part of the business these days, part of what, being in the media spotlight's all about, part of journalism. Not only do you get stories from there, but you've got to interact with people on a daily basis there. That's just the way it is. And fighters should know that. This is prize fighting. It's, it's an element of sports entertainment. If it was just fighting, then nobody would be watching. It would be in some back corner somewhere. Nobody would be interested. It's got all the bells and whistles for a reason. But, fight sports is still considered a niche sport globally because of the likes of football and everything else. So much other sports which have got these bigger platforms. You've got to fight for the attention of the sports fan, of the sports viewer. Now, mixed martial arts, its growth has been absolutely exponential over the last 2 decades. The reason it got there, with all due respect, is not because it's got a roster full of quiet fighters that just do their business inside the octagon. It's because of people like Mike. I can talk about him now because he's not here. He's gone in the toilet. Like Chael Sonnen, like Conor McGregor, who've generated these headlines outside of the MMA niche and brought more eyeballs to the sport. And then, yes, people come and they discover a GSP, they discover Anderson Silva, and then you realize all these different elements and then personalities, which are larger than life, like Vanderlei Silva and all these kind of people and the backstories. And that's why you stay, because you're in love with the sport and what it offers you and what goes on inside the octagon. But to catch people's attention, you have to know your value. And you're worth exactly what the UFC or any promotion can sell you against. How many, it goes back to the grassroots. How many bums do you put on seats? How many people care about your career? How many people want to buy a pay-per-view because you're fighting? Maybe not even to see you win, maybe to see you lose. But that matters in prize fighting. The worst thing you can be as a prize fighter is vanilla. You've got to either be a hero or a heel and just play your cards and make people care about your career. Whether it's win or lose, people have got to pay attention when you fight. You could be the best thing since Bruce Lee, but if you're not talking and you're not catching anyone's attention and bringing them to watch you compete, then you're always going to struggle against guys that are happy to sell themselves. And unfortunately, it's kind of the British way a little bit. It's not gentlemanly conduct to speak badly about people. We've had so many fighters out of this country that have bitten the lip, that will refuse to call people out, that don't want to be that guy. Oh, my mates will be embarrassed because I'm calling him out. That's not my personality. No, it isn't. But what you should explain to your mates is, if I don't ask for fights, if I don't call people out, no one puts bread on my table. Because all the fighters in America and Brazil and everyone else in this weight division that is jostling to try and get a shot before Arnold Allen, they're calling people out. They don't care about the fact that the opponents might not like them or might not like what you're saying about them, because your opponent, guess what, isn't paying your mortgage. You are. And if that means you've got to bite your lip sometimes, and that means you've got to call people out and do things out of character, who cares? Who cares? Make it happen. Make your fight happen. This is prize fighting.
That's a promo, man.
Nick,
just give him a round of applause, man. I mean, he went off. Mike, you went to the toilet and he was still going,
Mike.
mate. So I'm just going to give him
no.
applause.
It was good. It was good. Although he seems to think that we're all living in Victorian times. Oh, hello, jolly good old chap. Nick, you're from Liverpool. You're surrounded by scousers, not sorcerers. What are you talking about? That traditionally and historically, the English fighters are far too mild-mannered and polite to go out there and call for a shot. No, you're out of your mind. Just because Leon Edwards and Arnold Allen are a little bit more on the quiet side, most of them are bloody maniacs, let's be honest. The problem is, for Arnold Allen, listen to these names that are surrounding him, just below him and above him. Cub Swanson, Shane Burgos, Josh Emmett, Mozvar Evloev, Edson Barboza, Dan Ige, Kelvin Cater, Chang Sun Jung, Giga Chikadze. Do you know what I mean? And then after that, it's Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, and the champ. Do you know what I mean? As we said right at the beginning, the featherweight division is so stacked. All those names there, they're all household names. They are bloody hard names to beat inside the octagon. They all want to fight for the belt as well. That's the problem what Arnold Allen's got. Okay, the personality side of things as well, as we mentioned, but still the competition that he's got to get through just to even be considered for a title fight really is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed your speech, though, Nick. It was good, that, man. Thank you very much. Especially with Mike going to the toilet. It gave me a rest. Anyway, for those that are only just tuning in to our weigh-in show, we're still waiting for Curtis Blades. We're always like this, waiting for heavyweights to weigh in. Everybody else has come through. Nobody's missed weight as of yet. I don't think Curtis Blades is going to miss weight. Well, he shouldn't do anyway, being a heavyweight. But everybody's come through. So you got your main event, you got your co-main event, the 2 title fights are on, and the people's main event between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler, rescheduled for a middleweight fight, which was originally contracted for welterweight, is on. Both guys have weighed in, as has everybody else. We had a little bit of news recently that the trilogy is official between Brandon Moreno. He's taking on the former champ Davison Figueiredo. It's happening for a third time, happening in December. Listen, I'm going to be honest. When it was originally announced, I was a little bit disappointed because I thought the first fight and second fight, I got my full fill. Brandon Moreno most certainly did a job on Davison Figueiredo. I was happy, and I was happy then for Brandon Moreno maybe to get another opponent and to face somebody else. I'm led to believe that Pantoja was offered that fight, and certain things happened, and therefore it couldn't materialise. So I'm now not hating on a trilogy. I don't know where you're at, Mike. I wanted it to go in one direction, but because of the roadblocks, I'm okay with them going again.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I thought we had closure on that rivalry due to the second fight because Moreno was just one step ahead, and the first fight, it was a draw, you know what I mean? So it's not really a win on either side. And then to dominate in the second fight doesn't really warrant a rubber match. But still, this is the situation we're in. And I'm not mad at it because Davison Figueiredo is an incredibly dangerous fighter, right? And who knows, maybe some adjustments, he comes back and we do see a very different fight. It's very, very possible. And I got to say for Brandon Moreno, I mean, what a gangster, right? Because if you know Davison Figueiredo, you know what this guy's capable of, you know the power that he has, and the man is a finisher. A nasty piece of work as well. He's not somebody that people are going to relish stepping into an octagon with. He just did it twice. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Probably did it with a massive smile on his face as well. So yeah, no problem. He's willing to go in there for a third time. I absolutely love it. That is the attitude you want to see from your champions. And I've got to say, as a fight fan, I am very, very intrigued to see the adjustments that that Figueiredo can make coming into this one. Because he can. He can definitely change some things. He can fight at a higher pace, coming in a better shape, have higher output. And if he cracks or if he lands one, the man can punch. So it's a very exciting fight.
Nick, how mad is it now that we're all buzzed up about those flyweight fights? Because for such a long period of time, we genuinely thought that the UFC might get rid of that particular division. Now, all of a sudden, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, it is. And, unfortunately, we've got Triple C, haven't we? Mr. Cringe himself. Henry Cejudo to thank for that, and you're right. Listen, the fight itself, I'm not hating on it at all. I think the first 2 fights were super exciting. I thought Figueiredo probably. I thought the champ looked like he was going to hold on to his belt second time. No disputing, obviously, Moreno's outstanding the second fight. My only thing is, has it got a destination, this fight yet? Is there a possibility of it heading to Mexico City? I think if the champ's going to defend his belt, if they're going to have this third fight, he should at least have home advantage. I think if not Mexico City, then maybe the Staples Center. Let's get a big Mexican audience there because he is the first Mexican-born and raised fighter, I believe, to be UFC champion. So I think home advantage at least is what Moreno deserves for that one.
Good shout, man. Let's get that.
Fancy
that. That's a little Mexico trip.
That's a great point. Yeah, because listen, I commentated a fight in Mexico City. They love it down there. Listen, we all know about the Mexicans on the combat sports world. They love the boxing. They love a good fight, and MMA now is really, really catching up to for the Mexicans. I mean, in terms of catching up to how much they love boxing. So for Brandon Moreno, that's a great shout. They should 100% do that to cultivate and harvest that market and give Brandon Moreno the hero's welcome home. Do you know what I mean? That would be, what a sight that would be.
And seeing as that we're talking about Mexican fighters, Mexican-American Brian Ortega this weekend with an opportunity to do the business against Alexander Volkanovsky.
Oh, he's here. Fourth-ranked UFC heavyweight contender Curtis Razor Blades.
He's finished with the pancakes. Here he is, straight from the buffet. Curtis Blades. Yeah, we've been waiting for you, Curtis. Everybody else has done it, mate. They're back rehydrating, son. Last fighter to weigh in. Heavyweight Curtis Blades. Here we go.
261, the official weight for
Maybe he did need
Curtis
to cut.
Blades.
Maybe he did.
Maybe
there's a little bit that needs to shift. There you go. That concludes. There you go. Everybody, nobody's missed weight. Everything's come through. All looking good. Team Mobile Arena will be absolutely ram jam full. People expecting absolute fireworks. we've got a main event for the featherweight championship of the world between Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. That's in the books and signed, sealed and delivered. We've got a co-main event for the flyweight championship between Valentina Shevchenko and Lauren Murphy, and the people's main event between Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler's in there as well. 2 heavyweights on that main card, as well as flyweight contenders Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo. Gets us all underway from 3 a.m. Remember that time there? The prelims get underway from 1 a.m. A couple of fights just to highlight. Dan Hooker and Nasrat Haqparast. You may have seen a couple of the tweets coming up as we were chatting away there. Both those guys only arrived in Las Vegas yesterday. From Dan Hooker's point of view, he's been in Las Vegas for 12 hours and he made way absolutely on the money, setting an example to all the fighters right across the UFC roster, as did Nasrat Haqparast. Congratulations to both of those guys. I'm sure they're going to give us a fight of the night contender when they throw down in the prelims. And we mentioned as well on our preview show, Marlon Moraes against Merab Dvalishvili. What a fight that will be. That could be a cracker to top the prelims off as well. Those prelims get underway on BT Sport from 1 a.m. Mike, there you go. You can go and get back out in the sun there, sunshine, and top up that suntan that you're working on.
Yeah. No, mate, I'll be avoiding the sun at all cost.
I'm going to go and top up my knowledge on MMA for our review show on Sunday. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that show with you two gentlemen. It's going to be a cracker. And like I said, during the show, it starts off a 42-day period in the UFC where we get 6 undisputed champions crowned. It's going to be absolutely sensational. And it all gets underway on BT Sport. Make sure you come and join us.
I think there's just people out there that don't really like me very much.
Why?
Armbar. He's got it. He got it. It's all nice. Yeah, that could be because he's got experience. Why would I say that?
Domination. Diaz knocks down Robbie Lawler. Down goes Orishi. And it's all over.
No, don't be scared, homie.
Nick Diaz, bad boy of mixed martial arts, is the Strikeforce welterweight champion.
But I beat this guy on the ground or standing up.
Here's a left hook by Daly. Now Diaz to the body.